What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Hoopers Lounge with myself and Alex. And today is a huge episode in terms of NBA news because the trade deadline literally just ended 21 minutes ago. We were recording this at 3:21 p.m. The day of the trade deadline, and my goodness, the last couple days were absolute chaos. For things that did happen and for things that didn't. We'll jump into all that a little bit later on. But since this is our first episode since the rest of the All-Star teams got released, we want to start there and give you our thoughts on the reserves, which is just the All-Star game frustrates me so much. Just in general, I think a lot of these guys that we're about to talk about that didn't make it are going to get in because of all these injuries. I saw that obviously Shea is out through All-Star break. Ant just came out and said that he might not be playing in the All-Star game. So a lot of guys that people want to pay and see aren't going to be able to see them, which sucks. So I'm sure a lot of these guys that we're advocating for will get in, but it's just crazy that some of these guys got into the All-Star game. And so Alex, I'll let you pick. You want to start in the East or the West for these reserves?
We'll start in the East because that's the one I have a lot less of an issue with. But we were talking about this a little pregame, and you said you had about the same issue with the East and the West. So I'm interested to see who you thought was the big snub in the East that got left out.
Yeah, for me, it's Brandon Ingram. I think the difference that he made for this Raptors team from last year to this year is so instrumental. And I'm just looking at a guy like Pascal Siakam, where yeah, he's probably an all-star level player, but the Pacers are god awful, and we'll get to this argument in a little bit. But if you're gonna put a guy like Chet Holmgren in because of how good his team is, how are you putting a guy like Pascal with how bad his team is? That I think is completely double-sided. That is a complete double standard. And I feel bad for Brandon Ingram because I think he's been the best player on the Raptors this year. I'm happy for Scotty. He deserves to be in. But I personally think that Brandon Ingram has been the best player for them this year, and it's a shame that he didn't get in. So I would have taken Pascal out for Brandon Ingram. A couple of other guys that I think could have been out, but I'm more okay with them being in, are Norman Powell and Cat. I think Cat has had a really rough last month of the season, and I don't want to hold that too far against him. But I'm looking at a guy like Joel Embiid that I think he has a case for the All-Star game. Like, I really think that Joel Embiid could have made it over Cat the way he's been playing the last month. He's retaken his spot as the best player on the Sixers, excuse me. And I really do like what I've seen out of him, and I think he could have replaced Cat. And then Norman Powell. This one, again, it goes against my record argument, which is why I'm okay with Norman Powell being in. But Michael Porter Jr. has been playing better than half the guys on the All-Star roster. And it's just a shame the Nets suck. So I would have liked to see him in there as well. So yeah, I don't know how the world and U.S. would have worked with my suggestions. But I think Brandon Ingram, Embiid, and Michael Porter Jr. are all on the outside looking in, and I think they all have an argument to be into the All-Star game.
Brandon Ingram was my biggest snub from the East as well. I mean, the Raptors, none of us this year even thought they were going to be a playoff team. Many of us thought they were going to miss in the play-in entirely. And they're currently fighting for a top four seed in the East. They've overperformed all year. I disagree with you in the fact that I think Scotty Barnes is the best player on the Raptors because of what he can offer on the defensive side of the ball. Barnes this year is the only player in the league to be top 20 in all the major five stat categories: points, rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks. So I think that all-around versatility is more important for the Raptors than Ingram's scoring ability. But like you said, this year that the Raptors are having, I think they were deserving of a second All-Star. I think the year that Ingram is having was definitely worthy of an All-Star spot. I didn't see a huge issue with this because there wasn't anyone I would necessarily want to take out. Cat has had a down year for his standards, but he's still been an objectively good player, and the lack of big man depth in the Eastern Conference gave Cat that spot. I don't hate that. Norman Powell, he made his first All-Star selection as a 32-year-old, which is really cool. The Heat are a playoff team right now. They probably deserve to have a guy in. Don't hate that. Jalen Duren, the Pistons are the one seed in the East. They deserve to have two guys in. And Duren has had a career best year in partnership with Cade Cunningham. Don't mind that. Although I will say, with Jalen Duren's argument, if Cade Cunningham was not a Detroit Piston, Jalen Duren would be nowhere near the All-Star team. His ascension is solely based on the ascension of Cade Cunningham as well. So it's almost like I'm not willing to give Duren full credit for the leap he's made, which doesn't sound fair or right, but If I had to take out a guy in the East right now, I'd probably take out Duren, put in Ingram. But really, but I don't hate the inclusion of Durham. I like seeing first-time All-Stars make it. I think it's a huge landmark, a huge goal for a lot of the guys in the league. So it's cool to see them finally get their first All-Star berth. Happy for Duren. But I think in my ideal world, if I were picking the teams, I might swap Duren and Ingram. I don't know. Because if Brandon Ingram got in and Jalen Duren got left out, we might be sitting here talking about how did Jalen Duren get left out over Brandon Ingram, right? It's only a snub because they got left out. If it was the other way around, it'd be a bigger snub. I don't know. We'd have to see how that plays out. Embiid, I didn't think about as a candidate, but you are absolutely right in that he reclaimed his spot as the best Sixer. And, I mean, he's been putting up 30 points a game on the regular. It's just, even with that, he's still not playing in back-to-backs. He still has a game or two a week where he plays under 25 minutes a game. He's still not fully healthy Joel Embiid, or at the very least, the Sixers are being very cautious with him. And I think that's part of the reason. You can't credit a guy who's played about half the time as everybody else with an All-Star berth. I think that's just a complete knack of the effort the other guys who have stayed healthy, have been playing 30-plus minutes all year, have been putting in. Embiid, by skill-wise, absolutely. I mean, should be an all-star starter in terms of his skill. But like the conversation has been his whole career, his availability at the end of the day is what's costing him.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, the All-Star game, again, it's all about the fans, right? Like, there's nothing on the line. I know they've changed the format to make players care, but if I'm buying a ticket to the All-Star game, I want the best 24 players in the league to be on the court. I don't care how much they played in the regular season. I don't care how much they're going to play later in the year, right? Like, that's kind of my opinion on the All-Star game. Is it's not supposed to be what's right. It's supposed to be what the fans want. And in my opinion, I know the fans would rather watch Joel Embiid than Norman Powell.
Okay.
Right? Like, that's just, like, my opinion. And I think that...
Yeah, but
I think that's
what the All-Star game is, though.
That's what it... No, that's what I'm arguing it should be. That's what it should be. That's what I'm arguing it should be. Not that what it is.
Yeah, it's fair. But at the end of players' careers, when we're trying to determine who's better than who, we use the amount of All-Star games players make as a criteria. We take 12-time All-Star over 10-time All-Star. If they have the same All-NBA teams, if they have the same amount of rings, All-Stars do matter for a player's resume. So I think it does very much matter that the right players get the credit and the right players get in. It would have been very unfair to Jalen Duren. Yes, as a fan, from a fan standpoint, I would much rather see Embiid than Jalen Duren. But it would have been incredibly unfair to Duren to take away his first All-Star appearance, a deserving one, for a guy that's played about half the time as he has. That's just incredibly unfair to the career and resume of Jalen Duren.
I agree, but I'm not using Duren as an example. I'm saying Norman Powell. Who I think, like, Jalen Duren has earned his spot on this roster. And to your point about the Cade, hold on. To your point about the Cade if Duren wasn't, Duren wouldn't be here without Cade. I agree with that to an extent because I also think that Cade would not be as good as he is without Duren. So I think that can go back and forth. And I think taking that away from Duren, like you said, is unfair. And I think Duren was a clear-cut lock for the All-Star game. But guys like Cat or Norman Powell, who, in my opinion, I think they gave it to Norman Powell because he got snubbed last year. He's playing better last year than he was this year. And I think he got snubbed from the team last year. And I think that's why he got in this year, personally. And I also think, to your point about using All-Stars for players' legacy, while that is true, I take that with a grain of salt because fans vote for All-Stars, right? So I wouldn't necessarily say that putting a guy like Embiid over a guy like Cat this year would necessarily ruin the legacy of those two players. Does that make sense?
Yes and no, because Embiid, I think Cat is more deserving of it than Embiid this year, straight up. I think the amount of games that Cat has played and the availability that he has had triumphs the half of Joel Embiid that we do get, even when he's at his full potential. Availability is the best ability. I just don't.
I'm interested. I'm interested to see what you have to say about LeBron then, because I think we're going to differ on that too. I got a lot to say about that. Yeah, there's some recent history that I think should swing you to the pro LeBron side, but we'll get to that later. Okay, all right. So you think it should be more deserving over what the fans want, and I think that is why. I think the NBA has taken your approach, which is completely okay, but I think that's why fans and the players in general have lost interest in the All-Star game itself. Does that make sense?
Okay, that is a good point. That is a good point.
Um,
Having the 24 best players on the court would just incentivize
it
people
would,
to play better rather than, a quarter of those players being out for whatever reason and being replaced by, no offense, mid-tier guys who are having
yeah,
career best years. But I mean, nobody's calling Tyler Hero Donovan Mitchell. Nobody's calling, I don't know, Darius Garland, Cade Cunningham, right? And
yeah,
there's levels to this, and
and
that is a good point. If it was really the best of the best, the competition probably would be higher.
and like you said earlier, like we're always going to be talking about who's snubbed and who's not because you have to draw the line somewhere. Like someone has to be left off. It's just like how the real life. It's how the real world works. So I can hear what you're saying about deserving, and I understand the NBA standpoint of wanting to recognize players for their hard work and like what they have earned to an extent. But for my opinion, that's what the end of season awards are for, right? The All Star game is strictly an exhibition for the fans, if that makes sense. That's kind of my opinion on the All Star game.
Yeah, that's fair. I see that, but here's my take. If Brandon Ingram got in over Norman Powell, I think we would have been talking about that Norman Powell's disinclusion as a bigger snub than we're talking about Ingram's.
Okay, that's
So
fair.
because of that,
And we'll never know
I
because
think it's fine.
because Powell did get in.
Yeah.
We'll never know like if you're right or not about that. But I can hear you there for sure.
Yeah, and that's why, like I said, I think Ingram is a snub, but there's not necessarily a player I would be like, yeah, take him out for Ingram. So
Yeah.
I'm not,
I guess
upset with the East, if that makes sense.
yeah. I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm not mad at who got in. I'm mad at like how who's being left out and the fans just not being able to see some of the favorite players. That's all. It sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I wish everyone could make the All-Star game. But moving on to the West, wow, Alex, he told me pregame
Okay.
he's got some problems with the West, and there's just one like, all right, you look down the list, right? A blind deaf person could look at this list and immediately just smell who doesn't belong on this list. Like, I'm serious. Like, and I'll let Alex take this away before I start a rant. But Alex, what are your thoughts on the West reserves here?
Okay, first of all, I'll go on a Kawhi rant a little bit later because I think I know what your and I agree with you, so we can agree on that. But the fact that Kawhi, he got in too, by the way. He got in just to even out the numbers between USA and World. So again, not that huge of an issue. But the fact that Kawhi Leonard was not part of the original All-Star roster is, I'm not even kidding, the biggest snub in All-Star game history. And I will make that case later on. But the player who did not deserve to get in the slightest, Chet Holmgren. What is he doing here? What is he doing here? You know that TikTok sound that's like it's something like and Mark, and then it's like Mark's the oddball guy. That's Chet Holmgren in this. Like it doesn't work. I will say I did put Chet Holmgren in my midseason All-Star predictions, but that is when the Oklahoma City Thunder were on pace to break the Golden State Warriors record. And I think if they were still on pace to be a 70-win team, then I think Chet was deserving. But the Thunder have not been great. They hadn't even been good. They have been average since the turn of 2023. They have had a 500 record. They are not deserving of 2 All-Star candidates with the way they have played in the last month and a half, 5 weeks or so. And Chet Holmgren's play has diminished significantly since that hot start to the season that he got off, which we now know is just a hot streak. That's not new Chet Holmgren. His offensive scoring has decreased. His blocks per game have dropped. It's just been a rough last month for Chet Holmgren. And the fact that he was still somehow rewarded with an All-Star game, I don't understand that at all. I don't even think Chet Holmgren would be the 3rd best player on the Thunder if we were to rank them right now. I think there's a very good case to say A.J. Mitchell and Lou Dort are both more valuable to the Oklahoma City Thunder than Chet Holmgren is. I cannot believe that he got an All-Star spot. It is absurd. Over Kawhi Leonard at first too, but not even just Kawhi. We picked Chet Holmgren over Alperen Şengün. Are you kidding me?
Get ready.
I've
got more names. I've got more names. It's bad.
Yeah,
like it's
I know
bad.
The Rockets have been it's horrendous. I know the Rockets have been like maybe a little bit underwhelming this year. But Şengün has been the Rockets' best player.
Thank you.
Not Kevin Durant. It is Şengün that runs the offense. It is Şengün that is like the leader of the team. Kevin Durant might be the best scorer, but it is Şengün's team. He is the best player, and they picked Chet Holmgren over him. Are you shitting me? Like that is absurd. I'm sure you have a lot more names you can list. I'll let you take it away after that. Şengün is the one name that comes to mind after Kawhi Leonard's inclusion. That is like, this is unbelievable.
Well,
that this
yeah,
guy got left out over Chet Holmgren.
I'm gonna sound like a glazer here, and that's okay because Chet should not have been in. So when I was going over the reserves in my notes, I put a check mark or an X if I like agree or disagree. For Chet, I put 3 X's. There's no way this guy should be an all-star reserve. Like, he's so far from what is all-star caliber. Like, I just don't understand how that type of
be the worst player on the court by far. By far.
Like, and people I've seen people compare this to Andrew Wiggins making an all-star game, and I want to clarify that Andrew Wiggins deserved to be an all-star. All-star starter was a bit of a stretch, but he deserved to be an all-star that year. Chet Holmgren does not deserve to even be in consideration for an all-star game this year. Okay, I'm not saying he'll never be there, but this year, hell no. Okay, hell no. All right, so let me start there. The 3 names that I had that could have easily, again, my grandmother could have handpicked them over Chet Holmgren for this all-star game was Kawhi number 1, Alperen Şengün number 2, and Cooper Flagg number 3. Why the hell?
Yeah.
Why is Cooper Flagg is better than Chet Holmgren this season? That's a fact. Like, that is a fact. And I know he's a rookie, and I know he's in the Rising Stars game. I don't give a shit. Exclude him from the Rising Stars game and bring him up to the big leagues because he's better than Chet Holmgren. Okay, now I still think Şengün and Kawhi should be over Flagg. But all 3 of them should be over Chet fucking Holmgren. He's terrible. He's awful. And I think seeing a guy like Cooper Flagg ball out in his rookie year, that's, again, what do the fans want to see? They want to see Kawhi. They might not want to see Şengün. They want to see Flagg, right? That's another reason why I think Deni Avdija deserves to be in the All-Star game, but what are we going to foul bait in the All-Star game now? Like, what exactly what are we going to do in the All-Star game with Deni Avdija? Like, he's a great player, and again, he deserves it just like Jamal Murray deserves it, right? But I think everyone and their mom can say that they would rather see Kawhi Leonard or Cooper Flagg in the All-Star game than Deni Avdija and Chet Holmgren. Like, I think that's just, from a basketball person's perspective, that's a fact. Everyone else, I think, deserved it. I'm interested to hear what you think about LeBron because LeBron was the only player I did this. I put a check and an X because I can hear both sides of this argument. However, I agree with it just because he's LeBron James. Like, when Kobe in his last year, he didn't have a great year. He was in the All-Star game. Michael Jordan in his final years with the Wizards wasn't great. He was still an All-Star reserve. So I think LeBron, when he's come back to, he's been absolutely balling. And he's LeBron James. He's still the face of the NBA until he retires. And, like, imagine if they put Alperen Şengün in over LeBron James. Like, imagine the outrage.
LeBron.
Yeah, imagine the outrage if LeBron wasn't on the roster. So that's kind of my argument. I can understand your argument earlier about availability, but it's LeBron James. Some players, like, that just doesn't pertain to them, and I think LeBron is an exception to that.
Okay, I agree with you there. I do think LeBron is an exception. But if I were going off the 24 best players, I wouldn't include LeBron. That is the argument that I've made. And it doesn't necessarily have to come down to his play. It's similar to Embiid. It's that availability was an issue. LeBron James missed the first 19 games of the season, right? That is pretty much half the season up to this point. He's missed half of. And we're giving him an all-star berth over guys that have played the full season? I just don't think that's fair to the guys that were snubbed to see a guy that's played half the year get in over them. I know it's LeBron James. I know if there's anybody who... LeBron James could play 5 minutes a game, and I think he would still have an argument to be an all-star just because of his name. I'm not, like... If the game is about the fans, if fan service is a factor at all, like you're saying it is, and like I do think it should be to an extent, then LeBron is deserving. But if I were picking the 24 most deserving players, or I guess 25 now that Kawhi got included, the 25 most deserving players this year, if I were ranking the top 25 players this year, LeBron James would not be in the top 25. And again, that's not necessarily because of his play. I think a lot of us got hung up on that early season 9-point game against the Raptors, and we're like, "Oh, LeBron's falling off." He has been balling when he's been in the roster, but he hasn't been playing in back-to-backs, and he missed like half the first half of the season. I just don't think it's fair to rank a guy that's missed half the year higher than the guys that have been available all year. That's the main issue I have with LeBron James being in. Name value, he absolutely deserves it. Recent play, he absolutely deserves it. It's just not very fair to me to reward a guy for playing half the year when these things do eventually matter and when we're debating between players.
Yeah, I can hear you on that. So if you quick hypothetical here, because these guys kind of missed the same amount of time. If name value was not in it, who do you think would be a more deserving All-Star, LeBron or Austin Reeves this year?
LeBron, because Austin Reeves just missed the last 19 games of the year as well. Or if he was healthy, I would say Austin Reeves. If both players were healthy, I do think Austin Reeves has been better this year and more important to the Lakers this year than LeBron James. And call me crazy, I think that's the case. But LeBron missed the first half of the year, and Austin Reeves just came back, I think, last game or 2 games ago after a 19-game absence from a calf strain. His availability has been an issue too. So because of that, yeah, still give me LeBron, regardless of name value.
Yeah. Okay. And then last thing on the West here, what did you think about Denny Avdia? Because I'm 50-50 on him. Like, I would rather see Kawhi over Denny Avdia personally. But he deserves it. He definitely deserves it.
Yeah, using your criteria, prioritizing what the fans want to see more, I do think Kawhi should have been over Denny. And you know what? I think, yeah, Kawhi should have been over Denny regardless. Let's get that out of the way.
True.
Kawhi Leonard should have been an All-Star reserve. Let's get that out of the way. But I'm not saying Denny Avdia was not. Denny Avdia deserves it more than LeBron, and definitely deserves it more than Chet. So the fact that he's in it, it might not be what the fans want to see, but we're rewarding the right players, and I think that was important. Avdia, I picked him as my first time All-Star this year, preseason after the rise he had last year. I think I picked him as my MIP. I don't think that's going to happen, but happy to see him make his first All-Star berth, and it was a well-deserving one.
Yeah, absolutely. And last thing I want to say about the All-Star game, and this has to do with Cooper Flagg and rookies, I think Cooper Flagg's a perfect example of a guy that got held back from this All-Star game just because he was a rookie. I think if this was Cooper Flagg's second, third, fourth year, I think he probably could have made this roster over Chet Holmgren. Like, realistically.
Okay. Yes, but I can also name a few other players who are more deserving than Cooper Flagg. I think De'Aaron Fox is more deserving, for example, of this All-Star game than Cooper Flagg is.
Really?
That's just the first one that came to my mind. If I were to run through the rosters of the teams in my head, I think I could pick out 1 or 2 more. Not a knock on Flagg. He's had a great year and an exceptional year for a rookie. And I do think he is deserving over Chet Holmgren, to your point. Again, I don't know how Chet is in this. I would take Flagg over Holmgren. But I think I could also name 3 or 4 players that I would take before
I'm just saying,
Flagg.
though, the year, I guess, more recently, Cooper Flagg's been a top 10 player in the league the last, 3 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He's been insanely good the last couple of weeks.
Okay. Yeah, but that's a lot of recency bias.
I know. I
get
it.
They played what?
I get it.
Games?
But there's also rookie bias. They're holding it against him because he's a rookie, in my opinion. And I just don't think that's very fair. Again,
I think there's more deserving players than Cooper Flagg.
There's only so many spots, which I understand. But do you think Cooper Flagg could have an argument, in my opinion, against Kevin Durant this year, too, and Denny Avdia?
No, I disagree with that. Flagg's been good. I think Durant and Avdia have still been a tier above. Flagg's been good. He's on the next tier below. Exceptional for a rookie, but he's not all-star caliber yet. Lauri Markkanen. I would take Lauri Markkanen season over Cooper Flagg season, 10 times out of 10. Lauri Markkanen is another huge snub that, again, just got disincluded because the West has too much talent.
I think
the year Markkanen has had, year the Jazz have had as well, I think Markkanen is definitely deserving over Flagg. He's definitely deserving over Chet.
Yeah, I think everyone. I think the two of us are more deserving than Chet. I think is the moral of this story.
True.
That's interesting. I another thing that I think that held Flagg back was starting him at point guard the first couple weeks of the year. I think that that left a sour taste in people's mouth, and now that he actually plays his real position, he's yeah, really fucking good at
I
basketball.
think his numbers would have been
So-
significantly better if he did play his normal position all year. But again, that's a what if. He didn't, and his numbers are what they are. And I think his numbers combined with Dallas's record, I don't think it's good enough to get him in. Regardless of he could be this could be a rookie, this could be a 10th year player, this could be LeBron James. With the flag, with the numbers and the record that Flag is putting up, I just think there are much more worthy candidates in the West.
Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Like I said, I still have him below Kawhi and Şengün in terms of snubs. I do think he's had a better year than De'Aaron Fox, though.
I need to say something about Kawhi Leonard, man.
All right.
Kawhi Leonard is averaging 28 points a game on 50, 40, 90 shooting. He's going to join the exclusive 50, 40, 90 club that only the most efficient scorers in NBA history have ever made. Oh, and by the way, he's doing all of this while leading the league in steals. I mean, come on now. Kawhi Leonard missed the first 10 games or so to start the year because of an injury. And that was when the Clippers sucked. Since he has gotten back, the Clippers have been one of the best teams in the NBA. Now, that's trade deadline aside, they've blown everything up, things might look a lot different. However, the Clippers have won 16 of their last 20 games. That is a top 3 mark in the East. I don't know if they can keep that up for a whole season, but if they did, that's a top 3 mark. Kawhi Leonard, at this point of the game, screw All-Star. Kawhi Leonard should be in MVP conversations at this point in the season with the numbers he's having and the impact he has on the Clippers. The Clippers went from one of the worst teams to one of the best teams just because he got healthy. I've been saying for years, healthy Kawhi Leonard, when he is healthy, he is one of the best players to ever play basketball in the history of the game. We are seeing that this year. Healthy Kawhi has been carrying the Clippers, and he could continue to do so. I would still, even with losing Harden and losing Zubac, I still think the Clippers are going to make the play-in at worst. Kawhi Leonard is the reason behind that. He should be in MVP conversations, and his All-Star candidacy, that should have been obvious. That should have not even been a conversation. Like I said, he got added to even out the USA vs. World numbers, so it's much less of an issue. But the fact that he was not in the initial release, I think he was more deserving than every single All-Star reserve, save for maybe Anthony Edwards.
Very interesting. Yeah, I think that's a discussion maybe for a different day. The other guy I could think of that I think maybe, to use your word, deserving, would have been Jamal Murray, based on the year he had, especially with what he was doing without Jokic. He was playing at a very high level. But I hear you there. The MVP talks, I would pump the brakes on that because MVP is very team-oriented, as in team record-oriented. And I still think he has a ways to go to get the Clippers to where they want to be. Again, I think they're still 10th. But that's a perfect segue to the trade deadline. Let's start with the Clippers, obviously, and the James Harden for Darius Garland trade, as well as the Zubac trade, which broke today. And in my opinion, I think the Clippers had a great deadline. I do think that in the short term, as in the rest of this season, they will be a little bit worse just because they are going to have to get used to playing with each other. And I think their front court lost a lot, but I really like the haul they got for Zubac. When you can get a guy like Benedict Mathurin, 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick for Zubac, Zubac is a great player, but that I did not think they would get that much for Zubac. That was incredible. And then James Harden for Darius Garland and a second. When I saw that at first, I thought to myself, what the hell is Cleveland doing? I'm okay with trading Garland, but I feel like they could have got more than a old James Harden who hasn't won anything in the playoffs ever. I think the pairing of Mitchell and Harden is going to be extremely difficult to make work. With how they both play on ball versus how they play off ball. And also one of the knocks on Garland too was his defense. James Harden is not an improvement on defense from Darius Garland. Not a huge noticeable difference. So I think the Clippers cooked this deadline. Especially with the Zubac trade. I think they cooked with the Zubac trade.
Here's what I want to say about the Zubac trade. Because I think it's one of the rare trades that was a win-win for both teams. Yeah, Indiana gave up 2 first-round picks, but Indiana this year is going to get Tyrese Halliburton back to pair with an elite rim-rolling center in Zubac, in addition to the top 3 pick that they're most likely going to get this year. And they also have, Siakam, Nembhard, Neesmith, McConnell. They have their entire most of the core that they won the ring with. Indiana is going to be right back into championship contention next year. So those 2 first-round picks they gave up are probably not going to be all that costly. They're if the Pacers play how they expect to play, they're going to be in the high 20s, if not the 30th overall pick. So I don't think the Pacers thought they were necessarily giving up too much. Benedict Mathurin is a great scorer, but he's almost kind of been the odd man out in Indiana. And even this year, with Halliburton's injury, Mathurin was expected to take a much bigger leap and have an increased role, and he just hasn't. He just hasn't taken that leap that many Pacers and NBA fans thought he was. And I think he did request a trade, or his name was mentioned in rumors earlier this year. So I don't think that's necessarily a huge loss for the Pacers either. I think this was a package they were okay with giving up for a player like Zubac, who was going to pair really, really well with Halliburton when he gets back. They needed a replacement for Miles Turner. They didn't have to get him this year because they knew they weren't going to contend. But they got Zubac for next year. Zubac isn't going to help them win games next year. He's not going to help them win games this year. He's not good enough to do that on his own without an elite playmaking point guard. But next year, with Halliburton back, that's a scary Pacers team.
Yeah, there's 2 things I want to mention here. First, they did trade their first-round pick for this draft to the Clippers.
This draft?
Yes.
You're kidding me.
No.
The 2020...
So, the 2026...
You're serious?
The 2026...
Never mind, this is a fleece. Are you kidding me?
The 2026...
Is it protected at all?
Yes, so if the Pacers finish in the top 4 picks, it's going to go to the Clippers.
Oh, okay. That doesn't...
If it finishes outside the top 4, it will be repurposed into a 2031 first-round pick. So essentially, the Clippers don't want... So the Clippers only want it this year if it's a top 4 pick. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've never seen a protection like that on a pick.
And so right now, the Pacers, according to Jonathan Wasserman, have a 52% chance of a top 4 pick. So the Clippers are rolling the dice.
Let me take that back. They
that
got
was
fleeced. The
yeah.
Pacers got fleeced.
So
are you kidding me?
So yes, they got the rim protection. All the things you said about Zubac are true, and Halliburton coming back is correct. However, you lost Mathurin, and you probably lost Cam Boozer. You probably lost Cam Boozer.
Yeah, they just passed up a chance at Devonta Peterson and Cam Boozer for Zubac. That is unbelievable.
While losing Mathurin and another first-round pick. That's what I'm saying. Like,
I
the
didn't
Clippers...
realize it was 2026. Okay, never mind. Sorry, I take back what I said. Revoke all statements.
And then...
Men in Black, memory wipe, Pacers got fleeced.
And then...
That is unbelievable.
Now, if the Pacers can find a way to win enough games and not get a top 4 pick, then, I mean, that doesn't help the Pacers because they still don't have their pick for this year. However... Oh, they would, but it wouldn't be as good. Obviously.
Yeah,
so either...
Overall, and like we said, it's still a loaded draft. That's still a good pick.
So the Pacers...
you could have had a superstar.
Yeah. All right, and then the second thing I wanted to mention is before they traded for Zubac, they reached out to the Jazz for Walker Kessler and tried to get 2 unprotected first-round picks for Walker Kessler that would have allowed them to keep Mathurin. The Jazz, however, declined that. So they pivoted from Kessler to Zubac, and I agree with the idea of going after Kessler first as opposed to Zubac. And so I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well.
Yeah, I didn't realize the pick was 2026. I'm still hung up on that. Like, we've been talking about this draft class as generationally good for months now. We've been talking about it as among the best of all time. And the Pacers are one of the worst teams in the NBA this year, have a very high likelihood of getting a top 3 pick and a more than likely future All-Star in either Darren Peterson, AJ Debonsa, or Cam Boozer. And you picked Ivica Zubac, who's never made an All-Star game, over the 3 of them. That is on that. Like, I like Zubac's fit on the team. I'm not like saying I was wrong there. His fit on the team is going to be good. His pair with Halliburton is going to be great. But it's like the Pacers just lowered their ceiling for so far for no reason. I don't see how, like, For what? I don't get it. That's an awful move. And just to say about the Harden Garland trade, I haven't talked about that yet. Um, I agree with you. The Clippers are going to get worse in the short term. I think while they figure out how to integrate Darius Garland and figure out how to make their offense and defense work without Zubac. But with that being said, without James Harden, the ball will be in Kawhi Leonard's hands more. And that is only a good thing for the Clippers.
True.
It is shown to only be a good thing this year for the Clippers. So we're talking about Kawhi Leonard MVP candidacy. This trade should only theoretically help that if the Clippers can keep winning. Like, I could very well see, especially in a year like this, where so many of the top candidates are out due to injuries, I could very well see Kawhi having Nikola Jokic type year, where Jokic was a 6th seed and won MVP. That could very well happen with Kawhi, especially considering the turnaround that the team had pre-Kawhi and then upon his return. I mean, you talk about value. The record before and after Kawhi, that is value. That is the definition of value. So the MVP, Kawhi MVP, I'm jumping on the board now. I'm buying tickets, buying stock, invest in it while the price is low, because I think that has a higher probability of happening without James Harden and without Zubac.
All right, while we're on that, I'm going to DraftKings right now to see what his odds are to win the MVP. As a sports betting man,
You're taking my advice. I respect that.
Let's see.
While you're doing that, I'll talk about Harden on the Cavs.
Okay, he's not even in the top 10. They don't even have his odds. Kawhi.
Are you for real?
No.
Invest now wherever.
You can't invest. He's not even on the app. Well, he's not on DraftKings.
There's other books, dude. FanDuel, DraftKings, whatever. I don't know. There's other booking sites.
Right now, Shea is still the overwhelming. Shea is the overwhelming favorite on the books. That's crazy work.
Okay, question. Just out of curiosity, Jokic is technically still eligible. Are they listing him?
Yeah, he's the second favorite, right behind Shea.
The second favorite needs to play, but he has to play every single game the rest of the year. He misses one, he's done. But he's the second favorite. All right.
Because he's Jokic.
Because he's Leonard Jokic. MVP. Kawhi Leonard MVP. I am buying stock now. It could very well happen. I don't know, because the Oklahoma City Thunder as a 1 seed. I mean, Shea still has an incredible argument if that remains the case. But the season Kawhi Leonard is having, man, we're seeing a healthy Kawhi Leonard have a career best year, and I love it. I love seeing a former icon of my childhood ball out while I'm 22 years old. It's fun to watch. Shout out Kawhi, man.
Yeah, he is absolutely
the Cavs,
balling.
I completely agree with everything you said about the Cavs. I think the fit between Harden and Mitchell is going to be incredibly awkward. I don't see how Harden is an upgrade over Garland at all. I mean, they both are very similar players on the court. Harden might give a little bit better playmaking, but worse defense than Garland. I mean, but other than that, I think the two are very similar. I also think Harden is a player that needs the ball. Darius Garland is a much better off-ball player than James Harden, and that's why that team was able to win 64 games. I think the Cavaliers got off to a disappointing start this year and made a panic move. I don't think this Harden trade is going to help them out at all. In fact, I think it has only made the Cavaliers worse. I think they could very well fall down. I mean, the Magic are below them in the conference. I think they could get jumped and fall into the play-in tournament. I do not like the trade at all for Cleveland.
Here's the one thing I will say in Cleveland's defense is last year they had a real problem on nights where Donovan Mitchell was off, right? Like on nights where Donovan Mitchell wasn't shooting the ball well, Mobley and Garland failed to step up and lift the scoring load. I do think on nights that Mitchell is struggling, they can now give the ball to Harden and he can take over kind of that dominant scoring role on that given night. Does that make sense? That's the one thing that I think he is an improvement over Garland in a give him the ball and get you a bucket type of player. And I think that's something that Cleveland did struggle with last year in the playoffs, is when teams really focused on Donovan Mitchell and forced Garland and Mobley to beat them. They failed to do that, and I think James Harden gives them a better chance to do that. However, the fit between him and Mitchell, I still think it doesn't make sense in my head. Like, it just doesn't make sense. However, that would be the one point of defense I would say for why they would do that is just overall firepower, to surround Mitchell with more firepower, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't view it that way, but that is a really good point. I agree. With that being said, though, Harden cannot play off ball. He has not played off
No,
ball since he was
absolutely
a
not.
rookie or in his second
No.
year in Oklahoma City Thunder. That was one of Garland's strengths, and that's why him and Mitchell, at least in the regular season, was successful at one point. I don't know how the pairing of Mitchell and Harden are going to be able to share the rock, especially when you also have two elite big men who want their fair share of touches too. Like there's only one ball to go around. We've seen an issue of teams in the past getting too many ball dominant players and then cohesion never working out. Look at the Brooklyn Nets. Look at the Phoenix Suns. It doesn't. You need complementary players, and I think Darius Garland complements Donovan Mitchell very well. To win a championship, you need a superstar, and you need to build around that superstar. If Cleveland believes Donovan Mitchell is that superstar that can bring them to a ring, Garland was a much better fit than James Harden was around him. So what this tells me is that they don't necessarily see Mitchell as that star. They might go out and I don't know if they're going to trade Mitchell this offseason, but they might get him another co-star. They might find more big three with Mitchell Harden, and that third guy might take the role as that number one scorer on Cleveland. Maybe it's LeBron James who goes for a homecoming final year with Cleveland. I've been seeing that rumored around. That would be pretty cool to see for multiple reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it would, first of all, that would be really good. That Cleveland's defensive weakness that they would have with Harden, Mitchell, and LeBron would be completely offset with Mobley and Allen. So team fit, that would be fine. And I think having LeBron James, that gives you another elite playmaker, another guy that can get a bucket, another guy that defense has to worry about. Yeah, that's what this James Harden trade tells me, is that they don't believe Donovan Mitchell can take this team to a championship by himself. Because they went out and got a guy that does not work with him as well.
I would agree with that. Now, the more I'm thinking about it, just in my head, the more I think that this trade might actually work for them. Only because I remember Utah, Donovan Mitchell played a lot off the ball when they had Mike Conley as the point guard. And maybe Donovan Mitchell takes that role of off-ball guard again and lets Harden be the number one option with Mitchell, pouring in 25 points a night off-ball. Like maybe that does work. I don't know. Harden, like you said, definitely is not playing off the ball, but maybe Donovan Mitchell is taking that approach of I'll play off the ball, right? Like I'll let you kind of handle the ball handling and the point guard responsibilities, and I'll play, my natural, just when you pass me the ball, I'm shooting. I'm not passing it back type of deal. Now, the one thing I agreed with you about them overstating Mitchell, but I think they've overrated Donovan Mitchell's skill, which why they went for Harden, and maybe that's true, but I think more importantly, they've overrated what they expected out of Garland and Mobley as a duo, in my opinion. I think they severely misread their potential, maybe, because I feel like we've been talking about Evan Mobley being an all-star caliber player for like 3 seasons now. Darius Garland was talked about as one of the best passers in the league, and yet they've failed to meet those expectations in the most important games. So I think this is more about they need to get Mitchell more, yes, but I don't think that's so much as a knock on Mitchell as it is a knock on his previous supporting cast.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's move on from the Clippers and the Zubac and Harden trades. We'll move on to a trade I'm intrigued by, and that is your Golden State Warriors acquiring Kristaps Porzingis from the Atlanta Hawks. I don't remember exactly what they gave up in return. I know Kuminga was involved in the package. Buddy Hield.
That's it.
How many picks were involved?
No, that's it. That's it.
Just those 2 players?
Yeah.
Okay. Not a terrible return. Not a terrible trade for the Warriors. My issue with the Warriors is they hyped their fans up for months, or not, maybe weeks. Maybe months of the stretch. Weeks. Sorry. Weeks. Saying we're going to get Giannis to pair with Curry. We're going to be a championship contender. We're going to have the best duo in the league. And the Warriors really said, no, we actually have Giannis at home. And Giannis at home is Kristaps Porzingis.
That is not what happened.
That is exactly what happened. And not only that, this is not prime Kristaps Porzingis. This is Kristaps Porzingis, who is in the tail end of his career, who has been battling this mysterious MRSA illness, which I don't know what that is. I don't know what it does to Porzingis. But you know what? It's kept him out for most of the year. So it's got to be serious enough that it's impacting his, actual health. So the Warriors, okay, the Warriors didn't necessarily give anything up. Buddy Hield was a bench piece, and Kuminga was getting DNPs. They didn't lose anything of value. But I don't think this Porzingis trade raises the ceiling of the team at all.
Oh, yeah, that's okay. That's true. 100% I'm with you there. And I've already talked about this. The Warriors are focused on next year. Ever since Jimmy tore his ACL, the Warriors have been focused on next season. And I told you that. So here are my thoughts on the trade, right? For the Hawks, I think it's really good. I think Buddy Hield will add shooting off the bench, which I think they need with, a lack of it after losing Trae Young, obviously. And Jonathan Kuminga is a project. However, he could turn out to be someone very similar to what we see out of Jalen Johnson, just on a lesser scale. He could be a very similar player to Jalen Johnson. So I kind of like the fit of Kuminga and Hield on the Hawks. So I'll start there. As for the Warriors, this was a textbook salary dump. And I've done my research, obviously, as a Warriors fan into this trade. This trade is about next year, as I've mentioned multiple times. Kuminga and Buddy Hield were both under contract next year, meaning the Warriors would have to pay them money. So you get rid of those two contracts and you offload them to Atlanta. And who are you trading for? Oh, you're trading for Porzingis and he's hurt and he's old and he's not going to help you this year. Well, that's fine because he's a free agent in the offseason. Don't re-sign Porzingis. And now you have freed up all that money for the summer. The Warriors have successfully turned two ongoing contracts into one expiring contract, while, like you said, trading away players that weren't even helping them this year anyway. So Porzingis could raise the ceiling. I don't expect him to. You don't expect him to. But you're taking a chance on Porzingis while understanding that this move for next year is an A+. Like, for next year, this move today is an A+ for the Warriors. Right now, it's like a C. Like, it doesn't matter. It's whatever. But in 6 months' time, when we're paying all that money we could be paying to Buddy Hield, Jonathan Kuminga, and Porzingis, when we're paying that money to somebody else way better to help Steph Curry, we're going to look back at this trade and be like, that's why we were able to make that happen. So from that perspective, I'm extremely excited from a Warriors fan. Now back to your Bucks take about how you think we have Kristaps Porzingis at home for Giannis. The only reason the Warriors don't have Giannis is because the Bucks didn't have the balls to trade Giannis. The Bucks front office is scared to blow up the entire thing. They are scared to blow it up. And I think that is evident now. Because I know the offer the Warriors had was something diabolically insane. Okay? And here's what I texted you earlier. Here's what the reported offer was from the Golden State Warriors that teams like Miami and Minnesota were trying to match to compete in the market. Jonathan Kuminga, Draymond Green, and Brandon Podziemski were the three players involved. In which I assumed you guys would keep Podziemski and Kuminga and flip Draymond Green to a different team. 6 first-round picks, Alex. 6 till 2032. There's no way the Milwaukee Bucks looked at that.
Question. No,
There's no way.
There is. How many of those were protected and how many of those were pick swaps?
I don't know.
If all 6 of these picks were pick swaps, the Bucks are going to be worse than the Warriors. We're not getting anything from that.
I don't think they were pick swaps. I don't know if they were protected. However, the selling point was it's four first-round picks after Steph's contract ends, assuming he's no longer a Warrior. So you'd have to get through 2 years of the Warriors being good with those first-round picks, right? Assumedly with Steph and Giannis. Then you'd get 4 additional first-round picks once Steph is off the Warriors. Now, the Warriors would still have Giannis. So, again, I get it. But I don't think there's another team in the NBA that will ever offer 6 first-round picks again for Giannis after what we witnessed in the trade deadline. I think teams are going to be very hesitant to try and trade for Giannis again because the trust factor between the Bucks front office and the rest of the front offices is gone because you put up this false wall of, yeah, dude, we're come look at what we got in the shop, man. Giannis is for sale. Everything's for sale, man. Like, take whatever you want, man. Just give us a good deal in return. And then you go ahead and kick them on the way out the door. After they give you an offer, you just flip the bird in their face and say no. Like, I get it. It's business. I get it. It's business. But Giannis should have been traded because there's no reason in keeping him. And you're never going to get an offer this good. Never.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Here's my counter take to that. The Bucks were in no rush to trade Giannis. They announced at this trade deadline to test the market, to see what they could potentially get. Whatever teams were willing to part with, middle of the season, will be willing to part with significantly more in the summer. There was absolutely zero reason to trade Giannis. If they got an can't miss package, then yeah, you make the deal. If you don't, you sit pat until the summer because some team is going to get desperate and give you that irrefutable can't refuse deal then. Giannis did not have to be traded from the Bucks. Now, I will say, if it 6 first-round picks, that sounds enticing. If 4 of those, say, were unprotected, I would have pulled the trigger. I would have taken that trade. But the Bucks were under no obligation to take that trade. There's not just because the Warriors sent an offer doesn't mean the Bucks were obligated to take it. What are you talking about? Trust factor?
No,
But
they
there is
didn't.
no trust
No,
factor.
they weren't.
don't
They
have
weren't
to accept
obligated to the
trade as
Warriors.
Timberwolves.
They were obligated to Giannis to give him a chance to win a championship. That's who they're obligated to.
And they can do that this summer. They don't have. Yes, I agree. They don't have to do that this year. They can stand pat until they do that this summer. And you know what? Giannis himself still has not even requested a trade. I'm gonna pull up a quote that he said to Malika Andrews about he reaffirmed his desire to stay in Milwaukee. I'm gonna see if I can find the exact quote so I can read it out. Okay, pop-up advertisements, these need to go away. Yes, here it is. If you ask me what I really want, deep down in my heart, I want to be a Milwaukee Buck until I retire and win a championship here. If that is not possible to happen, and you realize maybe that's not the case, and maybe they're looking elsewhere, then automatically you have to be in the plans of what they're trying to do or weigh the other options. It's normal. Once again, Giannis never, ever requested a trade. Giannis never, ever explicitly stated he wants out of Milwaukee. The only party that was actively shopping him, the Bucks. The Bucks were shopping Giannis. Okay? Because here's the concern. Giannis is a free agent in 2027. And you cannot lose that for nothing, or you are entering a 5-year-long rebuild. So there is some sort of timetable for the Bucks to trade Giannis if they don't think they're going to build a championship contending team around him. Which, as a Bucks fan and a Giannis fan, I might be biased, but that still looks like the case. The Bucks are in no position to build a championship contending team around Giannis. So the presumed option would be to trade him. Do that this summer when you will get more. Teams will be willing to give up more than they're willing. No team wants to blow their entire roster up at the halfway point, at the trade deadline, in the middle of a season. They're willing to do that in the offseason, over the summer. Wait till then. Wait to see what teams offer. You know what? That Warriors package, those 3 players and 6 first-round picks, that's what we should expect over the summer. That is the minimum that teams are going to have to offer if they want Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah, and I think, in my opinion, I think the Bucks lost a little leverage, only because now you can see the Bucks are going, like you said, they're in no position to build around Giannis. So teams are going to wait until they can lowball the Bucks and force them to get rid of Giannis because they know it's in the best interest to remove Giannis from the roster because they can't build around him anymore.
That's the thing, though. There is no lowballing the Bucks because all 29 other teams would love to have Giannis Antetokounmpo. You can't lowball when he's in high demand. If Giannis had a Ja Morant type demand around him, then yeah, the Bucks would be getting lowball offers, and they would probably have a hard time moving him for any significant package. But this is a top 3 player in the league we're talking about, in Giannis. This is a player that every team in the NBA would love to have on their team. So there's going to be no shortage of suitors that are going to be willing to trade for him. Whatever leverage the Bucks might have lost with Giannis, they will never lose because his demand will still continuously be sky high. The other teams are going to be battling each other for Giannis. They're going to have to one-up each other's offers. So yes, the Bucks may have lost a little leverage because they could only offer a year of Giannis rather than a year and a half. If Giannis doesn't re-sign with the team he's traded to, that might be losing a little leverage. With that being said, Giannis is a player who can win you a championship. And teams are willing to give up the house, sell the mortgage, fuck the future, it's on the present. Some team over the summer is going to have that mentality and give up a haul for Giannis. And from a Bucks standpoint, if that's the case, I think that's going to happen. There was no reason to pull the trigger on a trade at the deadline if you believe you can get better offers this summer, and I think they can.
Okay. All right. I understand you there. Here's the one thing that I didn't mention that I also think hurts them. What do you do the rest of this season? Because I think if you had traded Giannis, you guys were in contention for a top 3 pick. You could have tanked the rest of the year.
This is what I thought about. Agreed.
And you could have gotten a top 3 player in this year's draft, which is the lottery is crazy.
We owe our pick to the Pelicans. We owe our pick to the worst of the Pelicans and Bucks pick goes to New Orleans. So if the Bucks were worse than New Orleans, we would swap, and if we weren't, everything stays.
So if you had tanked all the way down to New Orleans, though, it wouldn't have mattered because you both would be down there. Is what you're saying?
Yeah. But
So okay,
that also assume New Orleans doesn't rise up the standings, right? If New Orleans finishes as a top 10 team in the West, it's definitely not going to happen. But if they did,
all right, so New Orleans is going to get a top 5 pick regardless. So if the Bucks had traded Giannis and fallen all the way down to the top 5 of the draft,
not regardless, because New Orleans also owes their pick to Atlanta unprotected.
Okay, so the Bucks still would have had a top 5 pick if they tanked.
Now we're getting complicated.
The Bucks still would have had a top 5 pick if they tanked.
Presumably, yes, but there's various factors with the New Orleans pick that could have changed it up. New Orleans pick going to Atlanta would have significantly changed things.
So when Giannis is healthy, the Bucks are about a 500 team, I think is fair to say. That is not good enough to tank that far down the standings with this little time left. If the Bucks go 500 the rest of the way, they're going to get, a 10, top 15 pick, somewhere around there. I mean, part of this is biased because I wanted the Warriors to get him, absolutely. But I just think the Bucks, the way they went about this to me was so, I don't want to say shady, but what's stopping you from trading Giannis now? That's just
because we're going to get a better offer. But I will say,
but there's no guarantee of a better offer, though. There's no guarantee of someone offering you 6 first-round picks, and you were gonna. You were also going to flip Draymond for more picks or more assets.
Okay. And what's stopping you from sending those 6 first-round picks and Draymond and then whatever player you take in the draft for Giannis this summer? That's a better offer. I would rather have your drafted player than Kuminga and Brandon Podziemski. What's wrong with that? Give us your drafted player, give us your next 6 picks, and give us Draymond. And nothing's really changed. You still got Giannis, and we get what we want.
Yeah.
Let's wait for the summer. What's the rush? You
picks,
only want it because you're a Warriors fan. That is the rush.
No, the picks in theory would be worse because Giannis is now a Warrior, and he would be there longer, in theory, as opposed to...
It was going to happen regardless.
No, because if you traded him now, you would have got this draft's pick. If you wait till the summer, you don't get that draft's pick. You get an extra year off the back end.
Max, the Warriors are a playoff team. With all due respect, I don't think getting a 20th pick versus the 25th overall pick necessarily makes that much of a difference.
The Warriors are... Okay. From what I've been hearing, there's a real possibility that Steph doesn't play another game this year. There's a real possibility of the Warriors tanking this year. I'm serious. Yes.
Wow.
There's a real...
I have not seen anything saying that.
Steph has been diagnosed with what's called runner's knee. And you're a runner, right? I've never heard of runner's knee. I don't know what it is. But he was day to day. He's now missed 3 games. And with, again, like I told you, this is not a lie when I say when Jimmy Butler tore his ACL, all focus went to next season. All focus went to next season. That is literally all the Warriors have been focused on. So again, the Warriors, I don't think Steph will not play another game. That's not what I'm saying. That's not the type of person he is, and I don't think that's going to happen. However, if the Warriors, let's say Steph plays 15 more games and then they shut him down for the last 20, all right, you're going to miss the play and you're going to be a lottery team. That's probably a top 10 pick, top 12 pick, right? That again, you could leverage with.
Okay.
Again, my thought process is the Bucks, you're almost 100% guaranteed to get a better offer in the summer than you are in like right
I
now,
think
and
we probably will.
I think it's foolish to put all your chips into that idea.
Okay, and if we don't, then we'll do the same thing at the next deadline.
No, because
We'll
then
replay the
Giannis,
same thing,
but
and then we'll actually move him.
but then Giannis is only getting older and older and more, you know,
Yeah,
injured,
yes,
like
but he's
more
still
injured,
be a top
like
3 player. We'll still be able to get 4 first-round picks for him.
okay.
Say, give or take, and that's still going to be very helpful. It's going to be a reduced offer next year. Obviously, that's how supply and demand works. But what's the harm in waiting 5 more months and see if you can get
waiting 5 more months is probably not the worst thing. But the more you wait, the more teams are going to say, should I even call Milwaukee about Giannis? Because who knows if they're going to even listen? Who knows what they're going to do? Right? Like, yes, we really want Giannis, but the guy on the other end of the phone really doesn't want to get rid of him either. Like, do they really want to get rid of Giannis? Like, who knows? There's so much distrust between.
Can't let him walk in free agency.
But if Giannis wants to stay in Milwaukee, he'll just resign, won't he? He won't walk.
Yeah.
If he wants to stay.
And if that's the case.
Yeah, so the Bucks are going to be like the Pittsburgh Steelers with Giannis then.
Okay, no.
If they resign him, like
if the Bucks can build a contender, if the Bucks cannot build a contender, Giannis will leave. He will make that decision in 2027. It depends on what the Bucks do from now until then. If Giannis believes that the Bucks have built a contending team, he is staying. And if there's any chance that Giannis stays, Milwaukee takes it. They do it. They do not trade him.
I think you and I have talked a lot about the show, all the lack of assets Milwaukee has, and I know Giannis is a smart individual. The only way Milwaukee is building a contender within Giannis's prime is getting rid of Giannis. That's the only way you're going to get assets in enough time so that Giannis is able to win another championship.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
So Giannis saying he wants to stay for a contending team, that's like asking. That's unrealistic expectations of an organization that has clearly failed him.
Giannis, which is why he's in trade discussions to begin with. It is not Giannis himself saying trade me. It is Giannis saying, if you do not build a team around me by 2027, I will leave in free agency. And that puts Milwaukee in a catch-22 situation because that essentially forces you to trade him because you don't have a way to build a team around him.
That's what I'm saying.
There's no rush. It's not Giannis that is creating this rush. It is Warriors fans like yourself that want Giannis. It is Timberwolves fans. It is Heat fans that want Giannis. The Bucks have lost absolutely nothing by waiting.
Alex, when you're okay, so if you know that Giannis is going to walk in free agency based on his stance with the organization, there is a ticking time bomb in that organization to get rid of him. And the longer you wait, teams also know that you're trying to get rid of him by 2027. So, the closer you get to 2027, the lower the offer will get because the Bucks know he's not re-signing him. And if we don't trade for him, that's fine. We'll just sign him in free agency then. If you don't want to take my 4 first-round picks, we'll take him.
The Washington Wizards just got Trae Young for 2 veterans and no picks. So if we can get a star of that caliber in the next year and a half, Giannis will resign, and all is fine. Warriors don't get Giannis. You don't get him in free agency. You don't get him in trade. You don't get him anywhere. It depends on what the Bucks do. And if they're able to get even a modicum of supporting cast help for Giannis.
Like
right
Dame?
now, it is literally
like
Giannis
Dame?
and friends.
Like Dame?
Yes, Dame. Dame
in
did
theory,
not help Milwaukee win, but Dame, okay, but you know what Dame did? Dame made Giannis resign. They traded for Damian Lillard, and Giannis re-signed for the next 5 years. If they make another trade like that, Giannis will do the same thing. It is up to the Bucks to build a contender. If they do not, for whatever reason, if they cannot find a way to do that, Giannis will leave. So they have a decision to make. Do we want to try and build a contender around Giannis? Get him to re-sign? Or do we want to trade him while his value is high? There's a decision to make, and there was no rush to make that decision. They have this summer. What if a player gets unhappy with their current, whatever team, requests a trade this summer, and the Bucks can scoop him up for 2 veterans? Next thing you know, Giannis has a co-star. What if, the New Orleans get the 1st overall pick, and the Bucks get lucky in the lottery and get the 2nd overall pick, and end up with Darren Peterson and AJ Debonsa? Giannis will resign. If there is any chance in the slightest that Giannis will re-sign with your organization, why trade him? And especially especially if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, who you drafted, developed, and turned Giannis into the player that he is now. Giannis is Milwaukee. He's the greatest player the franchise has ever had. There is absolutely zero reason, unless he specifically wants out, to let him leave. If there is a way that you can get him to stay, you do it, you accomplish it. You get it done. We didn't lose anything.
Okay.
We're not going to lose anything that we can't still get in 5 months.
All right, this is simple, like life 101. The longer time goes, assets depreciate. I mean, I learned that in middle school. And so Giannis is a extremely valuable asset compared to no one else in the league. However, to say that the Bucks didn't lose anything by not moving him at this deadline is just, in my opinion, ignorance. That's just ignorance.
Between now and 5 months, Giannis's value will drop. You think Giannis's value will drop in the trade market in the next 5 months?
Yes, I do. I do.
Okay. He's not going to get worse.
Well, he's getting older. What do you mean he's not going to get worse? You lose out on half a year of Giannis. What do you mean he's not going to get worse?
Okay, and the Warriors were going for next year anyways. So what would they have done?
Alex,
wasted a half year.
No, you need to get off the Warriors. I'm talking about the league as a whole. Every team is going to look at this trade and wonder, how can I find a way to lure the Bucks into trading me Giannis? Because the longer they wait, they know the Bucks have less and less time to get rid of Giannis. And do you really think the Bucks, what would the Bucks trade for a guy like Trae Young? Let's say the Bucks had traded for Trae Young this offseason. What would they have given up? Miles Turner?
I don't know, considering
Ryan Rollins?
What the Wizards took the Hawks took CJ McCollum and
Corey Kispert.
I'm sure Miles Turner. Yeah, I'm sure Miles Turner and Ryan Rollins. That's a pretty similar package. I mean, throw in a second-round pick, for goodness sake. Jesus Christ, take my hand.
Yeah, do you think the Bucks would have Ryan Rollins and Miles Turner?
Trae Young, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they are significantly better than C.J. McCollum and Corey Kispert.
Okay, then we don't have to give up that much. Incredible. We get Trae Young, we give up less, and next thing you know, we have a team that we can sell Giannis on as a contender in the East again. He wants to resign. In his heart, he wants to resign. If he believes that Milwaukee is a contender, he will.
Here's
down to.
It was so easy for you and me to just make up that trade package for Trae Young. Why didn't it happen? If they're set on Giannis being a Buck for life, why didn't it happen? Why aren't they building a contender around him actively?
Yeah, and that's my question. That's the issues that I currently have. And I don't know. And to your point, what you said earlier, I don't know what the Bucks are gonna do this next half of the year. Because the way I see it, we have two options. One, we play Giannis, we finish at around 500 the rest of the year, and we ruin what could have been a much better odds at a higher draft pick. Or two, we sit out Giannis the rest of the year and take, potentially damaging the relationship between the greatest player of all time in our organization. It reminds me almost like when Kevin Garnett's first stint with the Timberwolves. The Timberwolves were tanking after the trade deadline and benched Garnett. That pissed off Garnett so much, he requested a trade out of Minnesota and was sent to Boston in the offseason. I am worried something along the lines is going to happen with that if we decide to tank and sit Giannis. But if we don't, that's also just delaying everything. Because you said, we didn't make a move. We did nothing. We did absolutely nothing this year. I think we made one trade. We got Amir Coffey and Keita Bates-Diop from the Suns. No, sorry, we got Nick Richards and Keita Bates-Diop from the Suns. Hell yeah. That doesn't make us contenders. That doesn't do shit for us. So that is the issue I have, is that we did nothing. We can't sell Giannis that we're going to be contenders because we aren't. We didn't do anything to establish us as contenders. Seeing what the Wizards traded for Trae Young, why could we have not done that? What was stopping the Bucks from giving up two veterans for Trae Young? Pairing him with Giannis, that would have been a lethal pick and roll. At the very least, that would have been enough to give teams a scare in the Eastern Conference. So to your point, I agree. The Bucks doing absolutely nothing was not what they should have done, and that kind of puts them in a difficult situation on what to do for the rest of the season. But speaking in terms of the value of Giannis, if the Bucks are dead set on trading Giannis, if that is their minds have made up, they didn't lose anything by not doing so in these 5 months. They lost opportunities that they couldn't they may or may not have gotten in the lottery. That's the one thing, and it's the lottery. It's a big maybe.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I just think, like, God, the situation between Giannis and the Bucks, it has not been pretty, and the longer it goes on, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And I hope that the Bucks do not mess this up, because, like you said, the value might not. The value won't drop too much. Like, I'm not saying you can't get a deal similar, but you're not going to get a better deal than what was rumored from Golden State. Picks through 2032, all in the first round. And a young player in Jonathan Kuminga that I think everyone believes has the potential to be a top 3 player on a championship level team. Like, you can build around Kuminga and other pieces. So that's just my personal opinion. And part of it is biased because I wanted the Warriors to get him. However, the rest of the league will take notes from what just happened, and I think they will be wiser to communicating with Milwaukee, because they know that the longer Milwaukee waits, the less time they have to get a deal done. And that is just facts. That is the truth. And if they are hearing around the league that Milwaukee doesn't like the offers this summer, teams are going to say, you know what? Let's wait till the deadline. Deadline comes, Milwaukee doesn't like the offers, let's wait till next summer. Oh, wait, he's a free agent. We don't have to give up anything. All we have to do is sign him and pay him. Oh, my God, let's do that instead.
Yeah, like, you say sign him and pay him like that's so easy. Like, there's not going to be 28 other teams besides your team that are also trying to sign and pay him. The issue with free agency, the thing with the trade is that when you trade for a player, you are guaranteed to have him. You got that player.
Correct.
In free agency, there is zero guarantees that the Warriors or whatever team you are individually saying will get Giannis. When you trade for him, you are trading for 1.5 at least guaranteed years of Giannis. You may think, oh yeah, we can wait. Let's wait till free agency and get him to sign then. And then he doesn't sign, and then your entire 1.5, 2-year plan that you've had for 2027 is out the door because Giannis didn't sign.
I'm not speaking from the perspective of a Warriors fan. I'm speaking from the perspective of the Bucks.
Yeah, I know you're not.
Why the Bucks should have. Okay. It doesn't matter what of the 29 teams sign him. You didn't get anything in return for your best player of all time. That's your fault. That's not. It has nothing to do with the Warriors or the Timberwolves or the Heat or the Knicks or the Pistons or the Lakers or whatever team signs him. The Bucks need to. This is why I'm talking about the Bucks made a mistake not trading him.
Or how about the Bucks re-sign him? Crazy thought.
And be 500 and be 500 and not win another championship.
I would love that. Hey,
like
Giannis, yeah, you know what? Giannis won us a ring. I am willing to ride out the rest of his career as a Milwaukee Buck for Giannis. I am very happy with that. I'm content with it. I would rather compete, but I would much rather see Giannis play his career out as a Milwaukee Buck. He is the franchise legend. He brought the city their first championship in 50 years. He is the greatest Milwaukee Buck in the history of the franchise. Let him have a Kobe career. Let him have a Dirk career. Finish his career out with the same team, even if it results in the Bucks being a 500 mediocre purgatory-like team like the Mavericks and the Lakers were in their latter years. I am okay with that. I am very happy with that.
Interesting. Okay. So you're just openly agreeing to being a Pittsburgh Steelers fan for the next 10 years. That's cool. I don't know why you would want to do that to yourself, but that's I would rather suck. I would rather be like where like the Pelicans are right now than Milwaukee. Like, if they're just gonna keep Giannis.
You say that, but the Steelers have not won a ring since 2009. So this isn't the Pittsburgh Steelers we're talking about because they haven't won a ring. They don't have a reason to keep any franchise legends because they don't have franchise legends. Giannis,
Big Ben,
is a franchise icon.
TJ Watt. Those are 2 franchise icons for the Steelers that they've held on to and refused to trade for.
Is Big Ben actively playing? Has TJ Watt ever won a ring? They're not Giannis Antetokounmpo. Neither of those 2 players are even comparable to Giannis in the NBA.
Big Ben is pretty comparable. 1 ring each? Yeah, pretty comparable. One plays quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Yeah, pretty comparable.
First of all, Big Ben has 2. First of all,
my
second
fault.
of all,
My fault. He's better than Giannis. My bad.
Which I know
My
helps
bad.
your case.
My bad.
Okay.
Didn't even know that.
Better is a stretch because Big Ben has never won an MVP. Big Ben was never the best player in the league like Giannis was. There are levels to this that Big Ben has never hit. The Steelers,
yeah, but
I don't even know why. I don't even know how football got brought up. But
no, because you're talking about wanting to be mediocre.
The Steelers have not won.
You're talking about wanting to be mediocre.
Won in the last 5 years? Have they won in the last 10 years? No, they have not won a ring.
Like, we are talking about the future, though. If the Bucks are going to suck,
you know what? I have had this question asked to me 5 years ago. I have been asked, if you were to win a ring and then suck for the next 10 years, would you be okay with that? My answer every single time was yes. And maybe, you know what, maybe that's because I'm a fan of a small market team who can't go out and grab a superstar on the trade block or grab a superstar in free agency. Maybe I'm okay with sacrificing a couple years of mediocrity or absolute shitty basketball play for 1 year of glory. Maybe that's something that you don't necessarily understand as a Warriors fan who are in the conversation for any and every single disgruntled superstar that is in the NBA, who year in and year out are expected to be contenders. That is a perspective that you do not have. I was more than willing, happy, thrilled to sacrifice 10 years of horrendous basketball play for one championship. That made it all worth it. Whatever comes with Giannis Antetokounmpo in the end of his career, whether it's with Milwaukee, whether it's with another team, whether it ends today, it is all worth it for that ring.
I completely agree with that take wholeheartedly. But don't you think as a fan of an organization you want to do what's best for the future? Past Giannis?
Yes.
After Giannis?
Yes.
No.
Like the Lakers were terrible in Kobe's last years. They weren't trading Kobe. They were going to let Kobe ride out his career as the Los Angeles Laker. The Mavericks were terrible in Dirk's last years as a Maverick. Didn't matter. Let him ride out his career. Giannis deserves that. Giannis has brought so much to the city of Milwaukee, both on and off the court. If he wants to be a Milwaukee Buck, he will be a Milwaukee Buck. He deserves to be a Milwaukee Buck.
So as a fan, you would want to delay your rebuild just so Giannis is happy. Is that what you're saying? As a fan, from a fan perspective?
Okay. And you know, I am saying this as a fan perspective. My entire argument has been from a fan perspective. From an NBA standpoint, yeah, maybe it would have been more entertaining to see Giannis have a chance at a ring this year. I would have, we were talking about, I would have loved to see the Giannis Steph pairing. That would have been awesome. But I am speaking from a Bucks fan, from somebody who watched that was jumping up and down watching Giannis carry Milwaukee to a ring. That was a top 10 moment of my life. Giannis deserves the absolute world in Milwaukee. Whatever he wants, he deserves to get. I'm saying this as a Bucks fan. I am more than willing to sacrifice mediocrity. I'm more than willing to sacrifice tanking, whatever. Do whatever Giannis wants. If he wants to be traded, yes, we'll oblige. But Giannis has never said he wants to be traded. If there's a chance he resigns, we do whatever it takes to resign him. And that's why I don't think there was necessarily any rush. Because say Milwaukee gets lucky in the lottery, we get the number 2 pick, we get Darren Peterson or AJ DeBonsa. In 3 years, you could very well make a case that Milwaukee will be contenders again, pairing Giannis with one of these 2 generational talents. You don't know what's going to happen. Things happen over the summer. A disgruntled superstar over the summer that the Bucks can give up a few veterans and trade for. We don't know what's going to happen. We were in no rush to move him if the Bucks did not feel like they had a cannot miss package. And for whatever reason, they did not think the Warriors package was can't miss. Whatever reason, they think they're going to get a better offer, or at least a similar offer this summer. I think so too. There was no rush to get rid of Giannis.
All right, we'll leave it at that. I know we'll talk about this more as the season goes on, and definitely in the offseason. This will probably be the main talking point of the NBA in the offseason is Giannis's future.
It always is. Spent the last 4 years.
And I feel like we just spent a fair share giving our opinions on it. And I tried, my opinions there. Obviously, I had a little bias, but I was trying to speak from the Bucks' perspective and from the league as a whole that, again, no risk, no reward. That's all. No risk and no reward. You got to take chances in the league, and a lot of teams have taken swings. And, I think...
Yes, but
I think
I guess my question to you is: do you think the Lakers should have traded Kobe before the last 3 4 years after his Achilles tear? Do you think the Lakers should have traded Kobe?
if they got 6 first round picks offered for him, yes, they probably should have. That's probably true.
Okay. Okay. See, that's where I disagree with you, and I think that just might be big versus small market thing. I think that just might be a difference in how we value players.
Yeah, and maybe that's true. Like I think this is going to be a very simulation. Remember when Paul George was traded for 7 first round picks to the Thunder? Look how that turned out for him.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying the Bucks front office is the Thunder's front office because no one is the Thunder's front office right now. They're on a different level. And that's actually a perfect segue into another trade that we can talk about here. But yes, if Kobe Bryant and Dirk Nowitzki in the last 4 to 5 years of their career were offered more than 5 first-round picks, yes, I think you should have done that. I think you probably should have done that.
You know, this also isn't Giannis in the last 5 years of his career, though. This is still
also
prime
true.
Giannis we're talking about.
Also true.
So we can talk about Kobe Bryant in his prime. After he won the ring in 2010, they were first-round exits in 2011. Should the Lakers have traded Kobe Bryant then?
Probably not. No.
That's my point. That's the point I'm trying to make. Is that there wasn't necessarily a rush, and that he's a franchise legend.
But they also didn't build around him in those years either, which was another problem.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't
That's why the Lakers sucked.
You can't sit in the middle. Again, which is why the one thing we did agree on is Milwaukee doing nothing absolutely hurts them. I think we both can agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're either going to trade him or you're going to keep him and build around him, but keeping him and not building around him does you absolutely nothing. Because Giannis, as great as he is, has clearly shown he's not good enough to carry this dog shit of a roster.
And there is still a non-zero chance he will leave. I'm saying he might resign. There is still the chance that he walks in 2027. I'm not disincluding that. I'm not saying that's an impossibility. So yes, the Bucks have to do something because that is too big of a risk for the franchise to take.
Yep,
something
absolutely
has to be done.
It
didn't have to be done at the deadline, but eventually something has to change.
Yeah, I agree with that. And speaking of the Thunder, like I said, we'll segue into a couple more trades here before we sign off. Jared McCain to the Thunder from the Sixers. I think that's really good for them. I don't know what the Sixers are doing. I know they have Edgecombe and Maxey, which are the backcourt of the future. However, Jared McCann as the sixth man of the future in a Peyton Pritchard type role doesn't sound too bad either. And I don't know why they were so eager to get rid of him. Now, everyone's going to say, oh my God, Max, they got a first-round pick. It's the Thunder's first-round pick, people. Okay, that is nothing. That's basically a second-round pick. Okay, that is basically a second-round pick as far as I'm concerned. So I think this is a steal for the Thunder, especially with all the injuries they've had this year. This is huge for their backcourt depth. Even if he's not the player he was last year, I still think he can give them good minutes off the bench. I think, like, A.J. Mitchell, what he was doing at the beginning of the year, there's no reason Jared McCain can't do what he's been doing. Jared McCain's a great off-ball player, too. He does not need the ball in his hands. And I saw, because he's still on his rookie contract, there's no need to re-sign a guy like Isaiah Joe whenever that time comes. Jared McCain can fill that role pretty easily. They've been talking about moving off Lou Dort, to free up some money in free agency. Well, Jared McCain can fill that role, at least offensively, as a catch-and-shoot 3 guy. So I'm excited for this move for not only Oklahoma City, but Jared McCain, who was not getting the playing time he deserved in Philadelphia. And I'm excited to see him. I think he's going to be really good in Oklahoma City. And I think the Sixers will regret giving that team that level of talent because it's still his second season. And God, he could be really good. He could be a borderline all-star if he's given the minutes and the keys to just flourish, really.
Somebody needs to stop Sam Presti, man.
Yeah.
Because he has fleeced yet another NBA team. This is genuinely unbelievable. Let us remember that before he got hurt last year, Jared McCain was the Rookie of the Year favorite. Stephon Castle ended up winning Rookie of the Year. And I would bet a large sum of money that the Spurs would not have traded Stephon Castle for what the Sixers got for Jared McCain. I would bet a copious amounts of money that the Spurs would ask for much more for Stephon Castle. And McCain, by all accounts, was better last year. Now, we don't know how he was this year because he's coming off injury. And he's had a reduced role. And the breakout of Maxey and Edgecombe being an elite rookie has taken away opportunities for him. And Quentin Grimes has been just as good, if not better. So McCain was a tradable player for the Sixers. I'm not mad that they gave up Jared McCain. I'm more mad about A, who they gave him up to, and B, how little they got in return for the presumed Rookie of the Year winner last year before an injury. They could have gotten much more from McCain, and they could have traded him to any other team besides, the team that won the championship last year and got off to a 24-1 start this year. Come on, man. You could have found some other team to give you a better package for McCain. McCain was a desirable player. I just listed 5 reasons why you would want him. He would have been Rookie of the Year. He's a shooter. He has a ton of potential. He could be a borderline All-Star. Hell, he could be an All-Star one day. I wouldn't be surprised to see McCain's career trajectory end up as an All-Star. Like and you traded him for essentially, like you said, 2 second-rounders. Come on, man. And let me just say, this is exceptional for the Thunder in every single way. Not only for the short term, but in the long term as well. So what Sam Presti's biggest strength as a GM is fixing weaknesses before they become weaknesses. And this is a prime example of that. Lou Dort and Isaiah Joe are both going to get much more expensive in their following contracts. One of them was probably going to have to go to maintain their big three of Shea, J-Dub, and Chet without going into the luxury tax. Well, not a problem, because they got a cheap and arguably better replacement in Jared McCain. So, genuinely, an unbelievable move by the Thunder, both in the short term and the long term. Sam Presti is, I don't know what kind of voodoo or blackmail he has in the rest of the league, where he keeps committing these absolute heists. It's absurd, man. The Thunder they got better, and things we hate to see as NBA fans are Thunder getting better.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Let's transition now into 2 major trades that we haven't even touched on yet. 2 8-player trades revolving all-star level big men. Absolutely insane. We'll start with the one that took place first, and that was Jaren Jackson Jr. going to the Utah Jazz in a trade that involved 8 players total, and Memphis receiving 3 first-round picks as well. I am intrigued as to why the Jazz would do this. I think their eyes were really opened by the development of Keontae George this year. I think Lauri Markkanen, obviously we know what type of player he is. He's an all-star level player in this league. And I really like the pairing of Markkanen and Jackson, except for the fact that neither one of them could rebound. So that might be an issue for them. Other than that, though, they can shoot, they can block shots, they can play off the ball, they can post up. I really like them as a front court duo. If someone could maybe put some muscle on them and teach them how to box out a time or two, the Jazz could be really competitive and probably will make the play-in tournament next year.
Well, I just had this thought I want to ask you before I get into my thoughts about the trade. What do you think about playing Markkanen or Jackson at the 3 and allowing Kessler to still play at the 5, allowing his strength as a rebounder to come to fruition, while neither Markkanen nor Jackson are necessarily out of place at the 3. Both of them can shoot. Both of the Markkanen might struggle defensively. I think Jackson will be fine.
It's an intriguing idea. However, I think you'd be putting a lot of faith into Jaren Jackson Jr.'s ability to shoot the basketball. I think you'd rather have a better shooter at the 2 or 3 and then put Markkanen and Jackson at the 4-5. It's an idea for sure, and I would be shocked if they didn't give it a try, right? Like if they didn't at least run it out there and see how it worked. I think that'd be dumb. Defensively, it would be like Kessler and Jackson. You would not score on that duo in the post or in the paint. Mm-hmm. You would not score on them. But I think offensively, you would just be putting a lot of chips in the Markkanen and Jackson shooting department, which I think there's better ways to go about that.
Yeah.
But I don't hate that idea at all, and I think I would be shocked if they didn't give it a try.
That makes sense. I just want to get your thoughts on that. And I agree with you. I think the Keontae George breakout year significantly expedited the Jazz's rebuild timeline almost, but it seems like the Jazz have been rebuilding the last 5 years. I think they've been tired of continually being a lottery team, and I think they were willing to make a trade that gets them into the playoffs, even if it doesn't necessarily get them into contention. They just want their franchise to return and have a taste after the long drought that they've had. And you know what? 5 years missing the playoffs, I don't blame them. However, this move was majorly rushed. I talked last episode about how important patience was for NBA teams and how the Houston Rockets trading for Kevin Durant, in hindsight, doesn't look as good because it's taken away opportunities for the young players to develop. And I pointed to the Thunder as an example, who gave their young players opportunities to develop rather than make a blockbuster trade, and they won a ring as a result. Well, the Jazz haven't even made a playoff game yet. They haven't even played a playoff series yet. So if I thought Houston was rushed and trading for Kevin Durant, what do I think about the Utah Jazz, who are still rebuilding and making like win now moves? Like, I don't understand the timing of this at all. I don't hate the fit of Jaren Jackson Jr. on the Jazz. I just think this moves their ceiling up to like, I don't know, the 7th seed in the West. And is it worth trading 3 unprotected first round picks to get the 7th seed to make it to the playing game? Like, I don't know. I don't know if that's worth it.
Here's what I would say to you on that. One sec before I lose my train of thought. One, I commend a team for taking a risk like this that is young and has a lot of potential. I commend them for pulling the trigger on a move like this, even if the fit is not perfect. And I think that if you're a free agent who's a bona fide number 1 star, you look at the Jazz's roster and you think, Keontae George, yeah, that's a number 2. Markkanen, yeah, that's a number 2. Jaren Jackson, that's a number 2. They've got 3 number 2s, in my opinion. If you're a bona fide number 1, why wouldn't you want to go sign with Utah? You know what I'm saying? Like, I know they're a small
I'll
market.
give you one reason.
They're small market, I know.
Because it's in Utah.
Yeah.
That's
okay,
the reason.
It's
That's
in
all
Utah. Also, they're probably going to get a top 5 pick this year, too. So imagine if they got Debanza, right? Like, because they're still...
I don't think they're...
they're still
the Jazz
bad.
have been on a heater recently. I don't think they're in top 5 projections anymore.
Well, I mean, like you said earlier, the lottery is anything. The lottery anything can happen.
Yeah. Right now, the Jazz have the 7th worst record in the league. Definitely still possible for them to get a top 5 pick.
Absolutely could get a top 5 pick. So they're... I wouldn't bank next year's success for the Jazz on this year's roster because I think a lot... Like, you don't make a move like this to then do nothing in the offseason. Does that make sense? Like, that doesn't really...
Yeah, but it's just, why would you give up your 2026 pick, your 2028 pick, for a move that isn't going to immediately push you into contention? Like you said, they probably could have gotten a top 5 pick this year. Not anymore. That pick's... Did they trade the 2026 pick? Was that among it?
I don't think so.
We gotta make sure. I have not been paying attention on the years, and I really should have been paying more attention on that. Okay, assuming it was 2026, that does kind of take away from the point that they're in top 5 pick contention because regardless of how good or bad they do, they're not getting their pick.
I'm looking it up right now.
Still, even in 2020, okay, but still, even if it wasn't in 2028, I still necessarily expect this move to push the Jazz into contention.
No,
I still think they're going to be at best.
The first round pick is 2027, so they didn't give up their pick this year.
Okay, I like that. Why the hell did the Pacers do so this year? Besides the point, I just need to point that out. How did the Jazz get away with not, but the Pacers had to for Zubac? That doesn't make any sense. But still, even in 2027, I don't think the Jazz are going to be anything better than a play-in team at best.
Probably
and
true.
There's still a very good chance. And there's still a good chance that they miss the playoffs altogether with just how good the West is. And with that being said, there's still a chance that next year's 2027 pick is a lottery pick. I just don't like... I don't know. I don't love giving that up.
It is true, but if the Jazz believe in Keontae George like I think a lot of people do, I mean, this is his second year, right? Second year guy?
Yeah.
A lot of guards, all right, I'm going to use a perfect example, right? Steph Curry was not this good in his second year. Like, that's a fact, right? And I'm not saying Keontae George is going to be Steph Curry, but maybe Keontae George is a number 1 on a championship level good guard. Like, maybe he develops into that. Like,
okay, counterpoint. Maybe. Steph Curry was not that good. You know who was? Tyreek Evans won Rookie of the Year that year, and then peaked as a rookie. So for every guard
Yeah,
that can
no,
say, yeah,
there's no
peaked later,
guarantees.
I can also point to a guard that peaked way too early. So
Yeah,
yeah, like there is no guarantees. George has looked good. It's just like Jaren Jackson
oh,
Jr.
good.
himself is not that much of a needle mover. I don't know if I would have traded 3 first rounders for Jaren Jackson Jr. Even
I
if I
would
was a contender.
I would say
Like
defensively,
I don't know if
you
I would.
defensively Utah's been one of the worst teams in the league this year. I think defensively he's a needle mover. Overall, maybe not, but
Okay,
defensively he is a needle mover for Utah. Is in
that's fair.
particular.
Also, in addition, the other players involved, Memphis, along with the 3 first round picks, are also getting Walter Clayton Jr., Kyle Anderson, Taylor Hendricks, and Georges Niang, while the Jazz are also getting Jock Landale, John Conchar, and Vince Williams Jr. So, in addition to the 3 first round picks, Memphis also got 2 former top 20 picks in Walter Clayton Jr. and Taylor Hendricks, 2 players who at one point reviewed as very high potential. I think it's a great move for the Grizzlies. And if there's one thing the Grizzlies do well, it is draft. The Grizzlies have an elite track record at drafting elite talent, whether it's with the early picks or picks later in the lottery or even picks later in the first round. I mean, look at Jalen Wells last year. Look at Cedric Coward this year. The Grizzlies, if they can do anything well, it's draft. So whatever they can do to get picks, I think it's a great move. And getting young guys like Clayton Jr. and Hendricks on top of that is just a cherry on top. I think this is a great move for the Grizzlies.
Yeah, I agree. It's time for them to blow it up. I'm a little surprised they didn't trade Ja. I'm sure we can get into that in a little bit, but I agree. I agree with them trading Jackson. Let's just talk about Ja now, I guess, since we're on the Grizzlies.
I don't have much to say about Ja. I think his value was just low. I think Memphis was pretty surprised by how little teams are willing to give up for Ja Morant. So like similar to the Bucks, I don't think they wanted to pull a trigger. Maybe some team gets desperate and makes a move over the summer that they weren't willing to do in the middle of the season. Which I mean, that happens pretty often. I don't blame if that happens. I
Yeah,
think Memphis made a good move in holding on to Ja, but
I think
I just don't think they're going to get much for Ja that they were expecting.
yeah, I think this is, in my opinion, the most important 3 month stretch of Ja Morant's career. If he is serious about basketball and he's serious about being, an all-time great player and winning a championship and doing all that, lock in the next 3 months, get your body in shape, and basically every time you step on the court, it's a tryout to the other 29 teams that I'm still an all-star guard, right? I'm still an all-star guard.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Completely agree.
in my opinion, this is the most important stretch of basketball for Ja Morant. I hope that the Grizzlies keep playing him because he's clearly now without Jaren Jackson their best player. And if they are full tank, I could see them pulling his minutes. I hope they don't do that to him. I hope they give him, a number one player on a team's minutes, right? And allow him to build his trade value. Because in theory, the more you play Ja, the more he raises his trade value. That will also help Memphis in the long term, in theory.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no, I mean, you could sit him and tank, but then his trade value doesn't increase. So I think it would benefit them because they're losing while he plays anyway. You might as well try and increase his trade value. So I think this is a really important stretch for the Grizzlies.
In 99% of cases, I would agree with you. But with a draft class as this good as the 2026 one could be, I mean, sitting Ja when you might not get much value for him regardless, because he has been playing and has not been drawing his value up. So he could very well play the next 3 months and his value stays the same. You win a couple more games and your lottery odds are screwed. When this draft class is legitimately generational. So while I agree with you most of the time, I don't know if this specific case in this specific class, I don't know if that's worth it.
I disagree with you because I think in a class as loaded as this, it's okay to win a couple extra games and end up with the third or fourth pick. There is no race for the number one pick because there are so many great options. So I actually disagree with your opinion on that because last year, there is no race to go get Cooper Flag, right? If you're in the top 6 teams, you're going to get. Sorry, let me say this: top four. If you're in top 4, if you get.
Did you say, hold on. Did you just say there was no race for Cooper Flag?
No, I'm saying there what? Yeah, there's no
okay.
race. There's no race.
There was no. Okay.
No, I'm saying there was a race for Cooper Flag, but you don't have that this year
Okay.
because of
All
how
right,
good
sure.
because
Yeah,
of how good
right,
the
right.
second and third picks are, and in my opinion, the fourth pick. I think Caleb Wilson is just as good as the other 3 in terms of NBA prospect level. Good.
Okay,
So
that's a good point.
so for a team like Memphis,
I don't know.
I think it would benefit them significantly to raise Ja's value while also tanking. And I don't know how they thread that needle. I really don't know how they do that. But that's like best case scenario for them.
Okay, if Memphis had a face of the franchise already, if Memphis had a Cooper Flag, or I don't know, I'm trying to think of bad teams that have a clear face of the franchise. Flag is kind of the only one that comes to mind. Or Zion Williamson. I don't know if he's. Speaking of Zion, his name wasn't even mentioned at all in trade rumors. Kind of surprising, besides the point. If they had a face of the franchise, then I would agree with you. But trading Ja Morant will give the Grizzlies zero identity. So I think teams with no identity, the Kings, the Nets, the Grizzlies, if they trade Ja, will benefit significantly more from adding a top three prospect with superstar potential in Debonsa, Peterson, and Boozer. Those are teams that need a face of the franchise. They need hope. So,
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
if Memphis trades Ja, they don't have that hope. They don't have that player who you can point at and be like, he can be a superstar one day. And if they were to fall to seventh or eighth pick, because they decide to keep Ja, they still will not have that opportunity to get that player that you can point at as a potential future superstar. And even like bad teams on the league still have a lot of those players. Like we were looking at the Jazz, Keontae George. Who's to say he's not a superstar? Zion Williamson, when he's healthy, he still is like an all-star caliber player.
No.
Maybe, I don't know. Maybe
Zion's had too many injuries. Too many injuries.
Maybe not. Sorry, but he's still a good player. Cooper Flag,
superstar.
He's the face of the franchise. Superstar on a bad team. Look at Giannis, superstar on a bad team. The Grizzlies would, or Tyrese Halliburton, or even Siakam, if you want to say it for this year. Siakam is the face of the franchise this year. Sure, but those teams are not necessarily be like, okay, we have to get a top three pick because they already have their face of the franchise. They want to build around them. The Memphis, if they trade Ja, will not have that superstar, that face of the franchise. It will be in dire need to acquire one.
All right.
They will be in the same boat as the Kings and the Wizards and the Nets.
So let's say a Memphis, for example, finishes with the 4th overall pick. Right. This is a very specific situation. Mm-hmm. Would you consider if you're, I don't know, who would be in the top 3 that wouldn't need one of them? Atlanta, right? They have New Orleans pick, right? What if Atlanta had a top 3 pick and they're sitting there saying, we've got Jalen Johnson, we've got Dyson Daniels, we got Nickeil Alexander-Walker, we've got, we have a good young core already. Would you trade the 3rd overall pick for Ja Morant and the 4th overall pick so that the Grizzlies can go get Cam Boozer? Like, would you do that if you're Atlanta?
I think you could ask for more than Ja in the 4th pick if you're.
That's what I'm saying.
I think Ja,
to my point, that's a path for Memphis to raise Ja's trade value and still not get a top 3 pick.
Okay.
Like, there's other ways than just tanking.
And yeah, if they ended up with like the 6th or 7th pick, they could still package that, Ja, and then a couple other role players and move up to the top 3.
Obviously,
I agree with you there. If that's what the Grizzlies are trying to do, I think it's a great move.
Or the Clippers just traded for Darius Garland, but if the Clippers also, now they have the Pacers pick, right? Well, if you're trying to build around Kawhi, right, would you want a Ja and a Caleb Wilson instead of a Cam Boozer? Right? Like, would you want 2 pieces instead of 1 type of deal, right?
Yeah.
I think that's another way and another incentive for Memphis to increase his trade value is maybe you increase Ja's trade value as part of a package to increase your draft pick once you know the order of the draft, if that makes sense. Because there are some teams in the top 3 this year that are going to be not the worst teams in the league. Yeah, they're not the worst teams in the league, if that makes sense. So
yeah, it does. That does make sense.
That was kind of my
I see what you're saying there. Yeah. Let's move on though to another blockbuster trade that happened yesterday, and we've talked about Cooper Flag a lot. This doesn't necessarily pertain to Cooper Flag because he's barely played with Anthony Davis, so we haven't really gotten to see how the two look together. But we will never get a chance to see the two of them again. Actually, never say never, but we will most likely never get a chance to see the two of them again after Anthony Davis was traded to the Washington Wizards of all teams. Along with this is an 8-player trade. Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dante Exum. The 4 of them were traded to the Wizards in return for Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham, Marvin Bagley III, 2 first-rounders, and 3 second-rounders. The 2 first-rounders are the Thunder's pick in 2026 and the Warriors' top 20 protected pick in 2030. So, lot to break down there. I know I was shocked to see this. This was definitely the most shocking trade of yesterday for me. The most shocking trade of the deadline as a whole. This was Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards. No, Anthony Davis's name has been thrown around in trades rumors for a little bit now, but I did not think Dallas would be willing to part ways with him in the middle of the season. He hasn't even been with the franchise for like a full year yet, or maybe barely over a full year. This is such a oh my god! This just makes this makes the Luka Doncic trade look so much worse. I don't even want to start talking about that, or I'll spend the next hour doing so. So I'm gonna try to not talk about that.
Yeah, smart.
But Anthony Davis, like he barely played in his time with Dallas, so I do see why they traded him, because you want to trade him while he still has at least some value. Because hell, he may never be healthy again, considering how he's looked in his time in Dallas. It's unreal. It's terrible. But to Washington, of all teams, shocked me. And Washington is undergoing something very interesting. Washington is not expected to play Trae Young or Anthony Davis very much, if at all, this season. They're going to continue their current tank that they're on, acquire a top 3 pick, and immediately next year bring out their top 3 pick, Trae and AD, play them all together, and immediately vault into contention.
With Alex Sarr
are trying to do.
With Alex Sarr too.
Yeah, with
by
Alex
the
Sarr,
way,
with Alex Sarr, yeah, Alex Sarr, Koulibaly, Bob Carrington. They still have other young pieces. But yeah, that's what the Wizards are trying to do, and that has never been done before in NBA we've never seen a team attempt to do something like this in NBA history. Trade for a superstar in the middle of the season just to not play him, so you can get a top 3 pick and contend next year. So the Wizards suddenly, in the last 2 weeks after the trade in this, have gone from one of the most boring teams to one of the most fascinating teams to watch over the course of the next calendar year or so. I am going to be fascinated to see how this Trae AD pairing looks. I am going to be fascinated to see whether this rebuilding style proves to be successful and whether other teams will begin to follow this model in the future. And I'm going to be fascinated to see how bad the Wizards are going to be this year now that they got rid of McCollum and Chris Middleton, who are basically the only reason they were winning any games. Like, over under, the Wizards win 3 games the rest of the year.
They'll probably win 4, so I'll take the over. They'll win 4.
Okay, I feel like it was a hell of a line then if you went 4 over 3. I said a hell of a line there, but that's my point. This might be one of the worst teams in NBA history. That might be fun to watch because of that.
True. Yeah. And from Dallas, I want to talk about this from both perspectives, because I'll start with Dallas. I think it's really sad that Kyrie, AD, and Flag all did not play one game together. That's going to be one of the bigger what ifs in NBA history, like recent history, is going to be what if, Kyrie and AD got to play a full year with Cooper Flag. And speaking of Flag, as I do a lot, I think this was a move because I think they drafted Cooper Flag with the understanding of we're going to build around AD and Kyrie. I think the first half of this year, they've now pivoted to, screw that, we're building around Cooper Flag now. And I think that is the mentality they have. As from the Washington perspective, I think it's twofold. One, obviously you want to win games, but Washington has been one of the few teams in the league that's fan base has really just declined. No one goes to the Wizards games. They struggle to sell jerseys. Really ever since they lost John Wall, I would say, even in the post John Wall era when they just had Bradley Beal, the team was that was the beginning of the end when they lost John Wall, in my opinion. And so I think they made the Trae Young move and the Anthony Davis move, not only for the organization, but for the fan base as well, just to give them something to root for. I think they rushed into this rebuild because they knew, our fans are not going to they're not going to be able to withstand another 3 years of miserable basketball. they've done it for too long, and so I commend them for, again, taking a risk. Who knows what Anthony Davis is going to do? Best case scenario, in my opinion, is that Anthony Davis and Trae Young lead the Wizards with this projected top 3 pick to the finals. That's probably best case scenario, right? Like they win the East and maybe win a championship. If you get Debanza with Trae Young and AD, that's probably best case scenario, because the East is a revolving door every year. Like you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know, who's going to come out of it. So I'm happy for the Wizards. Now, here's the thing that I took away from this trade. I'm a little surprised that the Mavericks did not use the Jaren Jackson trade deal in making a kind of a mock trade for Anthony Davis. Because I know Anthony Davis is older and he's more injury prone, but I still feel like Anthony Davis's ceiling is way higher than Jaren Jackson Jr.'s. And for me, I feel like those aspects kind of cancel out. And I feel like while the Grizzlies got 3 first-round picks, the Mavs got 2, including the Thunder's first-round pick and 3 second-round picks. So that to me just didn't add up. Do you think AD and Jaren Jackson Jr. should have got a similar return? Is kind of what I'm asking.
No, I do not. To answer your question,
okay.
That's more just a knock on Anthony Davis's injury history. I think that makes him a much more risky acquisition, especially for a team like Washington or Utah who are trying to escape a rebuild. Imagine you trade 3 first-round picks for unprotected first-round picks for Anthony Davis, and he gives you what he gave Dallas. Like it will be seen as one of the dumbest trades of all time. So I think that element of risk is something that Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't carry. Talent-wise, I'm not going to sit here and say Anthony Davis is worse than Jaren Jackson Jr. He's significantly better. But I've said this at the beginning of the episode, I'll continue to say it. The best ability is availability. If you can show up game in and game out for your team, that matters a lot more. You will be valued a lot higher than a star player who's only available half the time. And I think that was very much evident in this JJJ and Anthony Davis trade packages.
Yeah, that was the first thing that I thought was like, oh, like the Grizzlies got way more for Jaren Jackson than the Mavs got for AD. And obviously it's because of injuries, like you said. And I was just curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't think either team necessarily. If anything, I think the Jazz might have overpaid a little for Jaren Jackson Jr. But I wouldn't say it was like blatant or like egregious. I think both. I think it was. You can make an argument that both trades were fair for all sides of the party.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's transition to a few smaller trades that teams made. I like a couple of these trades. I'm about to hit you with a little rapid fire. My favorite one being Vucevic to Boston. I think that's amazing for the Celtics. I originally wanted Jaren Jackson to go to Boston because I thought that could be a long-term fit. I think Vooch is much more of a short-term fit. However, Keita and Luka Garza have been awesome, like super fun to watch. But if the Celtics are serious about contending, they needed just depth, and I think Vooch adds that a lot. And we haven't really talked about the Bulls a lot, but the Bulls suddenly have the smallest roster ever created in NBA history. And this, in part, is due to they also traded Kobe White to Charlotte, which shout out the Hornets for making a move. They've been a top 5 team in the league the last 10 days or so. Like they have been insanely good recently. They just beat the Spurs the other day, which crazy work. So shout out to Charlotte, and I don't know.
Let me tell you something about Charlotte.
Yeah,
you
go ahead.
Underrating them with top 10. The Charlotte Hornets matched the 2010 Miami Heat for the highest ever point differential for road games in a month in NBA history. They won their road games by an average of more points than any other team except the Big Three Miami Heat. The 2025-26 Charlotte Hornets for you.
Wow. That is crazy work. Yeah. And they are... I really want to see them make the playoffs. Like, screw the play-in. I want to see them win the play-in and get in the playoffs. Like,
absolutely.
I want to see LaMelo and Con Knipple play Detroit in the first round as a 1-8. Like, that would be an awesome series, in my opinion. Like, that would be so much fun to watch Cade versus LaMelo and Khan and Brandon Miller. Oh my God, that'd be so great. I mean, Duren would be averaging 20 and 20 against the Hornets, but still,
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a fun series.
How about this? How about this? How about a 2-7 Knicks Hornets matchup? I would legitimately give the Hornets a chance of pulling that series win off.
Stop.
Like,
Stop. Okay.
No, okay.
Stop.
A chance. I would take the Knicks. But last year, the Knicks beat the
All
Detroit in 6 hard-fought games. It could look something very similar to that.
All right. Matchup-wise, though, nobody could guard Brandon Miller, Khan, and LaMelo better than OG, McHale, and Josh Hart. Those three would have a very tough time scoring against the Knicks defense.
I guess I just thought LaMelo Ball would be able to feast against Jalen Brunson, and that would open up a lot of playmaking.
Brunson would be guarding, I guess, Khan. I guess. Knipple.
Okay. Never mind. Feed Khan Knipple. Give the rookie constant 30 bombs in the playoffs. You know what? Hell yeah. I would rather, yes, put Brunson on Khan Knipple. That's a better matchup.
As a rookie, you're going to feed him the ball in Madison Square Garden. Yeah, no. Okay, and it's Brunson may get a little exposed on that end, but he's got great help defense, and then you know what he's going to do on the other end? He's going to get everybody on the Hornets 40.
Yeah,
everybody on nobody on the Hornets can guard Jalen Brunson. Not a soul on earth can guard Jalen Brunson on the Hornets. So I would pump the brakes on that.
Okay, Zion James first of all. Second of all,
bro, what? Stop.
I would still pick the Knicks to win, but I would just say last year Detroit came very, very close to pulling the upset off against the Knicks. I think Charlotte could do something similar this year.
That was what I was trying to say. Hornets are very good. Detroit last year, Cade Cunningham last year is levels above anybody Charlotte has this year, in terms of like a leader and a number one option.
Through 6 are levels better than anybody Detroit had as their second option last year. Depth will matter. Depth matters.
I mean, Malik Beasley led the league in 3-point percentage last year. So I don't know. So I don't know about.
Beasley was betting on games last year.
So I don't know about that.
Okay, you know what? Screw that. 2 through 8, because we were talking about someone that was actively gambling on NBA games as Cade Cunningham's second option. Yeah, 2 through 8 on Charlotte. Give me the second, third. Yeah, that's clear.
Yeah,
you just said Malik Beasley.
Yeah, all right. Jalen Duren.
Okay, serious face.
He led the league in 3-point percentage last year, and Jalen Duren was better last year than any center Charlotte has this year. So again, let's pump the brakes on that.
Malik Beasley is the reason the Pistons didn't beat the Knicks, by the way.
Hey,
just need to point that out.
Okay, that might be true, but hey, you're a stats guy. The numbers don't lie. He was a flamethrower last year. A flamethrower.
Yeah, but you know what? The stats do lie when you're gambling on NBA games. The stats most definitely do lie in that scenario.
Hey,
Malik Beasley was a flamethrower, was not a number 2 option, and he was intentionally selling games. We are like, come on now. You know what? He was intentionally selling me games. Give me John Salon over Malik Beasley. Give me Josh Green over Malik Beasley. Give me who the Hornets just trade for.
Kobe White.
Usman Deng.
Kobe White,
yeah. Well, give me him over Malik Beasley. But give me Usman Deng over Malik Beasley. Like, come on.
Anyway, shout out the Hornets. Shout out the Hornets, man. And then the last trade on here, which I think helps Cleveland more than it helps the Kings, DeAndre Hunter got traded to Sacramento for Dennis Schroeder and Keon Ellis. So Schroeder coming off the bench for James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. I think that's really good. Schroeder is a guy that's played everywhere, so I'm not really worried about how he fits with a team anymore because he's proven that he can run an offense off the bench. I really do like the minutes we're going to see with Schroeder at the point and Mitchell at the 2. That lineup might be intriguing. Keon Ellis is a 3-and-D guy, so I think this is good for Cleveland. What do you think?
DeAndre Hunter last year was Cleveland's big deadline acquisition. So if you were to tell Cavaliers fans that in a year he would have been traded, I think every one of them would have been incredibly disappointed with the result of that. Because DeAndre Hunter was supposed to pick a major weak point on the Cavs, which was their wing, which was their forwards. Dennis Schroeder does not really fix that problem. Yeah, they have elite guards. They now have an elite six-man to help replace the production of Harden and Mitchell. But this does not solve any of their weaknesses. Hunter had a down year, yes, but he was still filled a position of need for the Cavaliers. And I mean, now who's their starting small forward now? Right?
Well,
Hunter came off the bench.
I'm about to tell you.
I think Isaac Okoro was starting, or
Well,
maybe
last
it was Max
year.
Strus. Now that he's healthy again.
Yeah, but let me put you on. Hey, you know who's been balling this year at small forward? Jalen Tyson. Jalen Tyson.
Yes. I forgot about him. Completely forgot about him. Take back Men in Black, memory wipe. Jalen Tyson, future All-Star. He's an absolute baller. I literally have wanted to mention him the last 2 episodes and then forget his name and completely forget about his existence before every episode. The dude has been balling.
All right.
Thank you for mentioning Jalen Tyson.
And,
because
hey,
he's a stud.
Yeah, pat on the back for that. But also, Dennis Schroeder made his Cavs debut last night. He had 11 points and 6 assists in 19 minutes. Not bad. Not bad for Dennis Schroeder.
We like that, but at the same time, what are their wings putting up? Look at their wing production.
Okay, well, Tyson had 17. Baller.
Solid.
Dean Wade had 5. Larry Nance Jr. Larry Nance Jr. had 8. Tomlin had 4. Keon Ellis had 6. Hey. They did beat the Clippers last night by 1 billion, so there is that. I mean, the starters
Kawhi
only.
playing?
Yeah, Kawhi played 26 minutes. He didn't even play in the 4th because they got their ass beat so bad.
Damn, rip my MVP. All right, okay. My point is, yes, Tyson has been a baller. I'm glad you mentioned it because I've been wanting to talk about Jalen Tyson. Breakout star of the year. But I would still say forwards are still the Cavs' general weakness on their roster. And this trade for DeAndre Hunter it only weakened it. It definitely didn't strengthen it at all. So I don't love the fit for the Cavs. I don't love the trade.
Oh, I actually,
And the Kings,
wow. I think Schroeder and Ellis are going to help the Cavs more than DeAndre Hunter did, in my opinion. I think Ellis is a better defender than Hunter. Schroeder will help
I think this would have been a much better trade without the James Harden trade. If they didn't trade for James Harden, I think I would have been seeing this trade in a better light.
Interesting. So you think Garland and Schroeder would have been a better 1-2 than Harden and Schroeder? I think Garland and Schroeder would have.
Yes,
I don't know.
I just looking at the fit. I think Mitchell and Schroeder would have fit a lot better than as a starting lineup, or even if they wanted to keep the Mitchell Garland pairing, because we know that works, and bring Schroeder off the bench. Yeah. I think that's better than blowing it all up and seeing if James Harden would be any better. I don't know. This is coming from somebody that I picked the Cavs to make the final. I thought this was going to be their year, and seems like the Harden just seemed like a desperate move, and I don't like the fit of that at all.
I feel like the Cavs, and this is the last thing we'll say before we wrap up this episode, because these were all the trades we had written down. But I feel like the Cavs looked at the Harden trade as like a strict 1-for-1. Like, is he better than Darius Garland? And in my opinion, yes, James Harden is a better player than Darius Garland. But that doesn't necessarily mean he'll fit better on your team. And I feel like Cleveland may have thrown that out the window. Like, in my opinion, DeAndre Hunter is better than Schroeder and Ellis individually. But I think the combination of Schroeder and Ellis will fit better off the bench for Cleveland than DeAndre Hunter did because of the emergence of Jalen Tyson. So while they took like a team-oriented mindset with the DeAndre Hunter trade, I feel like they just completely 180'd when they went with the James Harden trade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, and that's what I was saying. I think it would be a lot higher in this trade if it wasn't for the Harden one.
Yeah, and I can understand that. Yeah, I can understand that logic.
That'll wrap up this episode, this trade deadline special episode of the Hoopers Lounge. A lot of news, hold on, got something else?
Yeah. While we are on the talk of trade deadline, I just wanted to mention that teams can still sign free agents, and I have heard a lot about DeMar DeRozan getting bought out in the next couple of days, as well as Chris Middleton. So look for some contenders to sign probably DeMar first and then Middleton second, I would think.
in addition, Cam Thomas on the Nets has already
Yes.
been waived. He's a free
Yes,
agent right
so-
now. So I'm sure he's a player that's also going to get picked up.
Absolutely. That's another name I forgot to mention. So just because the trade deadline's over, guys can still go to different teams in different ways. And I think you'll be seeing that throughout the rest of the week is the guys who necessarily didn't get traded that teams absolutely have to get rid of. I expect them to be waived honestly like soon. That way contenders can pick them up. So that was just the last thing I wanted to mention.
Yeah. And these, obviously, were not all the trades. There are a lot more smaller trades that occurred around the NBA. These are just the only ones that we thought were worth mentioning, because if we were to talk about every single trade, we'd be here for the next 2 hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anything else you want to add?
No, just I just want to say, guys, thank you. Whoever watched the full 2-hour episode, we appreciate you. It's
You're an
this-
absolute legend
this-
if you're making it to this far.
this episode. It's not every day that we have to go over blockbuster trades and the All-Star reserves. So I appreciate y'all sticking with us. This was obviously one of the more newsworthy episodes we'll have, frankly, all year. Like this probably will be our longest episode of the year. Even our our playoff predictions and our playoff recaps will not be this long. Trade deadline was chaos the last 3 days, and I expect a lot to change in the standings. Really, I'm going to give it about a month before I even take a look at the standings, because 20 of the 30 teams in the NBA look completely different today than they did yesterday. And so I'm going to give it about a month for the standings to shake out, for injuries to happen and people to come back from injuries. And then I think I'll have more takes on the standings. But thank you guys, whoever watched the full episode. We appreciate y'all, and peace out.
Yeah, we'll be back to normal NBA recaps and stuff next episode. But yeah, thank you guys if you stuck it out this far. Y'all are legends. Peace.